So here we are then, after such a long and such a fun season, the final week is at last here. Welcome ladies and gentlemen to the AMX 1 race for the Formula V category at the Hockenheimring, the circuit where we're going to have both the AMX 1 and the AMX 10 races for today. But it's been such an incredible season of some AMX racing action. We've travelled to some of the best circuits in the world, raced some of the most diverse race cars in the world, but at last, Amir, the last week is here. 3 more days of racing action, and it all kickstarts today.
Yeah, indeed. Wow. It has been quite a long and winding road to come to this point, and crucially though, there are still some championships to settle, so a lot to play for the drivers despite this being the final round, so it's not end of term just by yet, Somil.
Absolutely, we're gonna have 2 races every single day. This Tuesday, of course, Saturday, and then Sunday. That's also going to be coming up, where all the championships will be settled. Starting off today with the AMX 1 light class, and that light class is going to be racing a car that is actually racing before the idea of the internet even existed. The Formula V. Now, what do you make of this machine, Amir? It just looks like such a crazy car.
Absolutely. The adage of what we call it, the slick wings and slicks. This one's just slicks. In fact, sometimes the cars don't even run slicks. They just run semi-radial tires that can actually encourage people to slide to get around corners. So it's the most old school way of driving, but it's a car that still teaches a lot of fundamental basics, especially when you come up through the ranks from karting into car racing for the first time. So a short circuit with a car that is light on power, but really high on the handling department, especially how you can throw it around and grab it by the scruff of the neck.
And doing so will be a very, very high quality grid today in today's AMX 1 Light Championship race. But before all of that, before we talk about the car in more depth, before we talk about this circuit we're racing on today in more depth, we need to tell you a lot more about what this championship really is and how it properly works. Let's find out. So then, what's the format, you ask? It's quite simple actually. A 20-minute qualifying session will be followed by 2 heats, each of them having a reverse grid. They'll last 20 minutes, and the interesting part is, if you qualify P1, you will be starting the race all the way back down the grid if it is a grid less than 15 people. If it's more than 15 people, you start in P15, which means that hypothetically, there could be a scenario where you get pole position, win the cash prizes for that, and eventually would have to do a comeback drive to win heat number 1. But if you thought the chaos was over and done with over there, think again, because results from heat 1 will then be reversed to immediately form the grid for heat 2. So there will never ever be any sign of simplicity or any sign of peace in any AMX 1 race. It's always full of volatility, and even if you have the best of races, you will have to then go to the back of the grid for heat number 2 in that case. What's the payout? Well, there are prizes to win for every single driver out here if they, of course, get a decent result. Huge cash prizes on offer, and as I mentioned earlier on, we race 3 times a week. This is the final week of the racing action, and of course, a couple of more days of racing are left, this Saturday and Sunday. But that also means that it's still an opportunity for all of you to join in and showcase your racing talent in this very championship. Sign up to race at any time at amxrace.com. That's the website. Join us for the next couple of races as well. And when do we go racing? It's quite simple. 5:50 p.m. GMT is the time, and this is the place to be at that very moment. Here we are today for all the racing action, but as we mentioned earlier, it's not just the AMX 1 class, it's also the AMX 10 class that will be going racing immediately after both the heats for the AMX 1 class are done. So there's racing action for everyone at every time here. So what do the drivers win? Well, it is quite simple. The prize pool is $100, and all you need to do to enter is just pay $1 as a driver. So hypothetically, if you end up being the fastest driver of the entire weekend, you could realistically end up winning a total of $30 in a weekend just by paying $1 to enter. Now, that does depend on how good you are, but the prize pool on offer is quite a big one, as you can tell, with prizes to win for everyone from P1 all the way back down to P15. And so far, this is what the championship order looks like. Now, this isn't exactly the championship order, I will admit. It's just a list of the drivers who have won the most in this championship. And look at the names. Compare their entries to the amounts that they've won. Just pick the driver in P1 as a reference. Diego Villarreal de Leon has simply paid $25 to enter, but has taken home $174 by competing and by being that good. He is going to be one of the major drivers in action today, but the names on this grid, all incredible in their own rights, all super consistent, and have been lighting up the AMX 1 field since the start of the season. And I mentioned the word championship. Well, this is what the championship table actually looks like. We could end up crowning a champion at the end of today's races in the AMX 1 Light class, and that driver will end up winning this beautiful GT Light Pro rig courtesy of our partners at Next Level Racing. And it's a prize worth fighting for because it's a season-long effort. We've got to be consistent, we've got to be at the top of your game and fight against drivers who are so good. Now, amidst that list, Maurizio Lozano has been the star driver. For sure, he's entered a lot of races in this championship, but he's also been that good, which is why he's leading this championship by a total of 19 points ahead of Gerardo Ramos. And today we might just end up crowning a champion at the Hockenheim. But why is this place so special? Here's Amir to tell you more about it.
Yeah, that's right, Saumil. This circuit has crowned many champions over the years, especially in the local DTM championship and at one point in Formula 3 Europe, when you saw the likes of Mick Schumacher being crowned here and all those other drivers that were around the time of the FI Formula 3 European Championship and DTM. The Hockenheimring in the city of Hockenheim, just outside of the Baden-Württemberg region in Germany, opened since 1932 when it was called the Triangle Course. But the current circuit that we know of was also established in the 60s, but then remodified around 2002 when the forest sections were easily penetrated by spectators who were being unscrupulous, i.e. in 2000 when Rubens Barrichello took that famous win in the wet. But because of a disgruntled Mercedes employee, the circuit had to be truncated, and Hermann Tilke did one of his many modification works in circuits over the years. This is the length we're racing at. As you can see, the circuit that used to stretch the forest has been cut off. Now we race on the even shorter layout of the Grand Prix circuit, 2.6 kilometers of it. What we're racing on here today, well, is an interesting proposition because, as you can see there, not fully slick tires. These are actually semi-slick, almost radial tires that we're racing on. Old school in design, but make no mistake, this is a modern interpretation of an old Formula. Formula V, 75 horsepower, rear wheel driven, and look at that, the weight. Can you imagine Formula 1 cars being that light, 500 kilos? F1 cars were around that kind of weight around the 70s, but because of the engines getting more advanced and heavier, they had to actually add the weight too. But these cars are pretty much the most basic of all Formula cars. A manual gearbox H pattern, to be exact, is pretty much the best way to school drivers when they come through the ranks, especially coming from go-karts. But a short circuit with a small car will provide some big racing, I can tell you that, especially the side-by-side action we can get. And we had this kind of format before in previous seasons. Let's hope it delivers once again.
And this means that we're just in time for qualifying. And remember, the format is simple for qualifying. No fancy stuff here. Just a 20-minute timed session where the fastest driver will end up starting on pole position. And that's what one would think. But that's not the case, because in this session, the P1 will indeed get a $7 cash prize, which is the highest you can get. However, they will have to start all the way down at the back of the grid because of the reverse grid format. And that means that there's going to be volatility all around. And for sure, we might only have 5 drivers competing today. But looking at the grid, looking at the quality of the drivers, I don't think we're going to get bored today, because all of these drivers, Lozano, Dantas, Chico, Villarreal, Pereira, they've been drivers who have been very consistent. Their attendance rates would be as high as any studio scholar student. But the best part is, they're all feisty. They love to trade their punches and get their elbows out when they really have to. And that means that the grid might be short, but the entertainment can never ever die down here.
Yeah, especially given the fact that Lozano, look at that. You know he means business. He is champion-elect right now because the ball is in his court. The fact that Gerardo Ramos is nowhere to be seen just yet. He might just pop out of nowhere for all we know. But he has a job and an objective in hand. Just keep it clean, keep it going forward in the right direction, and he might just walk away with the W at the end of this race, in fact. So, really then, all to play for Lozano. He just needs to finish the races as well, just so he could be crowned the ultimate champion here in the AMX1 light category.
But keeping it clean is going to be, how do we put it? It's going to be a task harder than trying to walk on ice with flip-flops, and that is precisely why these cars, the Formula V cars, as you mentioned earlier, Amir, they're as light as a fly, and that means that weight transfer is genuinely such a major issue. And what we saw earlier was just a simple case of that. If you carry too much speed into this car, like we are seeing Martin Chico do at the final couple of corners, this car will be so unforgiving because there are no slick tires, there is no brilliant suspension platform, there's no aerodynamics to support you. It's just you and mechanical grip fighting against the very nature of physics, and more often than not, drivers tend to lose that fight by just pushing too hard.
Yeah, and you can see that all the weight is shifted right to the rear when you really fling it to these corners. And case in point, how we saw just now, Lozano, even the best of them, can get caught out by that. But luckily, he is still well ahead by about 4/10 here, so not to be worried about right now. As you can see on the bottom right of the screen, what those sector loops mean. Purple fastest session, green is personal best, and yellow is not improved at all, but you can still find some time somewhere. And case in point about finding time, Evandro Dantas, as we're looking at Chico on screen there, looks as though he's disappointed with that lap, rubbed his chin, waiting to just set another one. He has plenty of time, about 7 minutes left after this. But Dantas across the line, that's the fastest third sector. Will this be pole position? And the answer is, oh, it's very close. Very, very close indeed for him. It might be just about a couple of tenths behind there, but he means business. He has the bit between his teeth at the moment.
0.32 seconds is the exact gap, and there's Martin Chico getting his lap completely messed up, which would mean a tow back to the pit lane ideally. I think that's what's going to be on his mind, as there is still lots and lots of time left to go for another timed run. But here's Christian Pereira doing his... Actually, that's Martin Chico who we're riding on board with right now. That would have been Diego Villarreal who's gone back to the pit lane. My apologies for that one. But a word on this car, a word on how things actually play out. It's funny, right? Because it's the most bare bones basic car that you can ever have. As we see a bit of a nod from Diego Villarreal. Nice to see you, Diego. Good stuff. But a word on this car. It's barely anything. 500 kilos is stupidly light. And it's got nothing. No ABS, no traction control. You can literally steer this car by telepathy, because when you think about it making a turn, it will make a turn because that's how light it is. But importantly for all the drivers, a lot of them aren't quite used to this, because on the iRacing platform, this is probably the most left field car you can find. I mean, there's literally nothing like it on the platform, or nothing ever like it on ground as well.
Apart from the Formula Ford cars, of course, the Ray Formula Ford 1600s that are on the iRacing service. So it's kind of like it's a distant cousin of the Formula V car, but this one is just slightly less powered, but still quite a lot of fun to drive. Yeah, they are two classes of cars that are an afterthought nowadays, but they are the stepping stones of many great drivers' careers in the past, especially Formula Ford that have produced so many champions. Formula V as well in his native Germany, the likes of Keke Rosberg and Niki Lauda coming through the ranks to go on and achieve bigger and better things in the world of Grand Prix racing. It's a good starting point car, and for these guys, it's a case of trying to find the limit of adhesion when you really want to go for it. And speaking of the limit, you saw just now Lozano getting an even faster time by about a tenth. So he's 5/10 ahead of Dantas now as we're on board with him. No improvement that time, but he's only a tenth off. Really then, one of the fastest guys in over a single lap. He's ready to go and kick some butt. Meanwhile, Nico Godoy has joined in. He's a bit of a late tater, but better late than never.
Oh, yes, indeed. And Nico Godoy is one of those drivers who loves a good fight. We've seen him time and again on this championship be one of the most stout defenders of them all. And that is going to be fun to watch, as will his qualifying lap, because with only 4 odd minutes left to go, there isn't really a lot of time for Nico Godoy to put in a really fast lap. But knowing him, qualifying will be interesting to watch, and his performance is going to be something to keep an eye out on. But let's also talk a little bit more about Diego Villarreal as well. This driver is how do we put it? I mean, he's so diverse. He's literally driven every single car that we have to offer on this platform. You take him to ACC, he'll race over there. You make him drive a front-wheel drive car, he'll drive that. Rear-wheel drive car, he'll drive that. A car with an edge-pattern gearbox and no assist, he'll drive that as well. This guy is just so adaptable, and it shows as well in his driving.
Yep, a jack of all trades, shall we say, is his kind of driver. Is this kind of driver? But for Villarreal, the key point to note here, he hasn't had a win just yet. So let's see then if Villarreal can finally put the pieces together here and make something out of it in the final race of the AMX light category in the season with the Formula V cars. Looks as though he might just start in between the entire field, in the middle of the pack, in third place after this, but looks as though he wants to get a bit of an improvement. He's only about 2/10 behind Chico. Let's see then. How is it looking so far? Decent, but again, he can still find plenty of time, especially for the stadium section.
But as we now approach the final week of this AMX1 championship, I'd love to know your perspective on it, Amir, and your experiences throughout it, because throughout our time covering it, we've had so much fun. Every single race has been full of some sort of drama or chaos whatsoever. And for you personally, what have been a couple of moments that you've particularly enjoyed, or a couple of drivers you've really loved to see in action so far?
Well, to answer that first part, I would say Jerez in the TCRs some weeks back in the front-wheel drive category. That was, for me, the races of the season so far, because of how it was so tight at the front. The first to 20th was just about a second, and the racing was quite frenetic. Yes, the drivers, in hindsight, they actually talked afterwards that they didn't really enjoy that because the circuit itself in Jerez just lends to that kind of argy-bargy action where the drivers need to make up as a lot of time as possible in the small space given. But I would say that was probably the best race of the entire season because it was really just action-packed from start to finish in both heats. Whereas the driver that I like to see, no particular favorite to be honest. Every single one of the drivers that we've seen from the front of the field to the back have been ones to watch out for. So no particular favorite at all. It's just some drivers stand out the most, especially if they were on camera with some really funny antics like Gerardo Ramos. You can see sometimes how he's literally smoking when he's driving, and he's really a fun watch. Drivers like Nico Godoy or Diego Villarreal, they can come into the comment section. They really are very active in talking to us live when they're not racing or while they're racing sometimes. But yeah, it's a great community that has been fostered together here, and glad to see that everyone's still active around even after about 10 plus weeks of competition right now in Sawmill.
That's more like it, right? Community, and that's what the iRacing service is really all about. For sure, high quality esports racing, well, that's one of the main things. But the community and the friends you build around iRacing just by competing with drivers week in, week out, and sometimes even day in, day out, creates such special bonds. I mean, all of us in the iRacing community have made so many friends throughout our time racing here. And even though the season might be coming to an end, we know for a fact that these guys will be racing each other after that as well, won't they?
Yep. And of course, lest we forget, the biggest name of the lot that has been racing throughout the past couple seasons, a certain Dutch Formula 1 world champion, Max Verstappen, of course, making the rounds on social media when he revealed that he was racing with a controller in his hotel room after pre-season testing in Bahrain, would you believe it? He could still manage to keep in the top 10 in both of those races that he actually competed in. So that really was that kind of virality, and shows how much sim racing is now integral to drivers in their spare time. As now we're coming to the end of qualifying, we'll go into that topic a bit later, but it looks as though Lozano has claimed the final pole position of the season in MX1 Light.
So here we are at the end of the qualifying session.
Sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
Sorry about that. It's been 2+ years of us doing commentary after COVID, but I've still forgotten sometimes that you've got to unmute your mic. Well, that mistake is a rookie one, which is something that all the drivers have avoided in qualifying, especially Maurizio Lozano, because with an error-free lap, he's gone on and has put in pole position and has gotten P1 by almost half a second ahead of Evandro Dantas, claiming that $7 cash prize as we approach the final AMX1 light race of the entire season. That means on this beautiful 6-car grid, Lozano will be starting dead last. P6 is going to be the position for him, and P6 isn't nothing in the world, Amir. You consider the size of the grid, but the drivers ahead of him are quite special. Now, we are going to have standing starts for this heat, and off we go then. Green flag is underway. The first heat for the AMX1 light class is in action, and it is Christian Pereira from the front leading quite well. But here we go, Diego Villarreal already seizing the lead even before we get to the first corner. Incredible action so far as we approach the first infield section, and it's Villarreal leading from Pereira, who isn't backing down, Amir.
Yeah, that was a good start from Villarreal, then jumped at the opportunity to get into the front early doors, but he is still under severe pressure from Pereira, and of course Dantas, we know he's very fast. He didn't really show it in the ACC race that we were commentating on, but for sure, when you give him the right kind of car and track combination, he might be dangerous. And there you go. He's up to second now, just goes around the outside Pereira. They go to the stadium section for the first time. On board with champion-elect Maurizio Lozano. He's already gone past Godoy. Now he's setting his sights on the podium here as the 6-car field stream through, coming into the end of the first lap.
Oh, and there's a bit of a slide there for Christian Pereira already as he's losing the rear end of the car. Meanwhile, we are seeing more side-by-side racing action. Nico Godoy has lost a position. Martin Chico swoops on the inside of him. Wow, that was a bit of a brave one. Barely any room on the inside line, but Chico, decisive as he was, claims P5 from Nico Godoy. So then, at the end of the first lap, Diego Villarreal leads ahead of Evandro Dantas, and the order has already been shaken up because Christian Pereira, our race leader at the very start, has dropped back down to P3, and he might just lose more positions. There's contact. Chico hits Godoy. There is contact. Chico gets spun around. He's at the back of the field, and the chaos has already begun, Amir. It doesn't take too long here, does it?
Yeah, unfortunately, one of two drivers trying to actually become a hero early doors as well to make up the positions they lost on that first lap. Chico not accepted from that one, but unfortunately, one move too many, and he's sent all the way to the back once again. So, yeah, that will be a bit of a shot in the foot for that one. Though, luckily for him, he didn't lose too much time. It's only about 3 seconds anyway. Yes, it's a short track. It will feel a lot. But if the drivers in front of him keep on battling, he might just be brought in back to play as Godoy drops it there, coming through Sachs curve. And that, remember, just as I said it, the only one mistake from one driver that can actually bring him back to play. He's there now. Chico's actually spun it around again. I think Chico's actually dropped it. That's why he's also not be able to take the opportunity to get away from Godoy. So it's Chico and Godoy right at the back. Lozano, though, clearing the way right now to chase after the podium runners.
What a chaotic car this is. There's barely any mechanical grip at all. Aerodynamic grip is a luxury. And here's the replay of that Chico incident where he got tapped and he got spun around. It was Lozano who made contact with Chico, and there he was. Chico sent to the back, after which he had another spin. Now, let's talk about why these drivers eventually lose these positions. And so much of it, Amir, has to do with the dynamics of the car. Because there's no downforce, because there's no aerodynamics, a lot of the way you can gain or lose time happens to be with the weight transfer. So what exactly went wrong for Chico there? What happened with the weight transfer that actually put his car around and got him in the bad position?
Yeah, again, it has something to do with the fact that the car is kind of weighted towards the rear. So once you actually go in, it's kind of like Porsches in the early days. In fact, to a certain extent even now, that sledgehammer effect, because once it goes to the back, that's it. The car will step out and you have no way controlling unless you can just pedal the throttle and just catch the slide in time before you go completely around. But for Chico, unfortunately, that wasn't the case, and he sent to the back. He was able to get up to the back of the top 5 again, but then dropped it as soon as he could be able to get past Godoy. As we're looking at the battle between Dantas and Villarreal, Villarreal was actually overtaken by Dantas through Sachs curve. Normally you wouldn't get that in cars. You might probably see that in smaller machinery like superbikes or any kind of motorbikes. He went off there and he's gone off again at turn 2, which allows Dantas to get away. So unfortunately, well, it's not an example of weight transfer being lost there. It's just a matter of driving mistake. But Villarreal, no doubt, would be still having a fight in him to get back up there, as Villarreal behind him as Lozano and Pereira come for company, as Lozano goes through and takes away P3 from Pereira.
Maurizio Lozano is executing a great comeback on his way to seal this AMX 1 Light Championship. He started P6. A couple of the drivers who started ahead of him already had a few issues, and yes, he did end up tapping Martin Chico at the first lap, but the stewards will be having a look. Nevertheless, even if he does get a penalty, even if he does lose a couple of positions, it is unlikely that Lozano will end up losing his grip on the top of this championship, because his main competitors are not present today. So it's a drive to seal the championship, a drive that he would like to finish off in style by getting a big win. But that at the moment seems a little unlikely, because at the moment in time, there's a 2.5 second gap between himself and the drivers. And in terms of raw pace, really faster than Diego Villarreal. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, and in fact, he's got plenty of laps here to go. You're only about 1/3 through right now, so he has cleared Pereira by almost a second. He's only about 2.3 behind Villarreal, as we can see the sector split times being put on screen there, bang on cue. That time around, it looks as though, yes, is Lozano fastest among the three of them. Villarreal just slightly off Dantas, but you can tell he's really in the minute. In fact, it's now 2.1 seconds coming through the second sector beam. Villarreal's faster than Dantas this time around, but Lozano even faster by nearly 4/10, and collectively he's about 4.5 faster than Dantas already. So really then, it's a matter of how many laps left to go after this that he can actually get. Maybe by, if we put up in AWS prediction, 5 laps at most that he can actually get. But again, it is dependent on how fast he can be consistent throughout the entire period. As across the line they come for the 6th time, 2/10. So collectively, he gained over 7/10 against Dantas. Now the two of them are going to be looking at behind their rearview mirrors with much earnest.
That is actually remarkable. Doing that in all of one lap takes quite something. And in this particular car, you cannot attribute it to anything else apart from the driver himself. It is such a tough car to drive. Probably one of the toughest on the iRacing services, just to drive the car, because of how dynamic the car is, because of how nimble and how frisky it is at any given point in time. It is so easy to carry more speed than you possibly want to into a corner, because of how the nature of driving is adapted to other cars on the service. Most people will normally drive GT3s, perhaps Mazda MX-5s, or even some other cars on the service. But with this thing, you cannot carry half as much speed as you can with those cars. And the thing is, the weight transfer, it is such an important factor. At any given point in time, the normal technique of slamming the brake hard and then doing gentle trail braking just won't work here. You've got to be so delicate, almost like putting an egg underneath the throttle, and then being even more careful with the braking as well. It's a car of fine margins. You can really not get anything wrong with this one.
Yeah, I was thinking Paso Doble, you had to really dance with the throttle and the car to just get by here, to really be so careful with it. As looking at the battle right now, Lozano has gained yet another 3/10 that time around with Villarreal, and Dantas not that far away either. So really then it's going to be a 3-way battle for the win of the race, as a few people have joined us for the comment section, including the usual suspects like Driver Cams, hello to you as well, and Epic Sunset. Hopefully you're enjoying the race so far. It's really actually coming good here, because Lozano is the man on the mission. He's ready to take the advantage of a few competitors not even present here today to take the championship, but he's got immediate trouble ahead because Villarreal actually smoked his tires because he locked up. That wasn't coming from the exhaust, that was coming from the tires. And once again, the same corner that caught out Villarreal previously to get the lead, concede the lead to Dantas, he's done the same thing again, and this time to second place to Lozano.
So a big mistake there by Villarreal, which drops him back down to P3, and that fight is on once again. It might only be a temporary mistake by Villarreal because his pace in the following corners has not dropped off. If anything, he's closer than he's ever been to Lozano. In fact, he's actually sizing up a move. Probably not at this particular right-hander, but the arena section, which is so technical, and your braking there has to be so precise. That is where Villarreal normally can be quite good. And that is where Lozano really has to worry and has to make sure that his mirrors are super, super clean. But the lockups, it's interesting, isn't it? It's a car without ABS, and for all the drivers, it's a tendency, right? We're driving so much of GT3s, driving so much of TCRs, we tend to abuse this ability and tend to brake while turning just a little bit. But with this car, the margins are so precise. It gives you nothing. It's so unforgiving on the brakes that if you're just even marginally off the limit, you could end up losing so much lap time that it's actually not even funny.
Yeah, but again, it's also easy to get over the limit. We saw a couple of times some drivers having puffs of smoke. They really were on the anchors. And again, some of the cars don't have ABS either, like TCRs, for example. You really have to be precise because you can't brake 100% in iRacing anyway. But some of these cars, even more so. So you have to brake around 70-80% so that you can just get the car stopped enough, but then you don't lock it up. So there's a fine margin to how much you can get away with it. And the margins are even smaller on a car like the Formula V cars. But the flip side is, it's a much slower car, so they can get away with not braking too much at all and still carry momentum through the corners.
Well, let's actually start a discussion on this one, Amir, because for a lot of people, this isn't a car worth driving. That's what they say, and it reflects in the usage of it on the iRacing platform, that a lot of people prefer to drive other things. But I kind of disagree with it, because racing these Formula V cars, there's so much to learn about rail braking, so much to learn about throttle application, that you just can't learn as much or as effectively in any other cars, because I get a feeling that with this particular car, it tests you that much more that you've got to be perfect at it. And when you apply that skill to any GT3 car or TCR or whatever machine you may drive, it just makes you that much better, don't you think so?
Well, I can agree to most of the points you said there, but again, different cars, different requirements. If you're driving a TCR, it's not the same way you drive in a Formula V, of course, because you need to just mash the throttle, do it like Senna style in the NSX to get a TCR car around. Whereas this car, you cannot be too hard on the brakes, but you cannot be too hard on the throttle either. You just have to find the right time to power it out and then go 100%. Because look at that, see? In corners like that, it's easy to go 100% because it's a more flowing corner. You won't want to drive these cars in the chicane because it just feels a bit of a chore to get through. But again, different strokes for different folks. It is a good learner's car, I would say. But then came cars like the Formula 4 that we had recently, where that is actually a good to come out of slower things like the Mazda MX-5s, that you can actually go into single-seaters with the Formula 4. These cars might have fallen by the wayside, but they still have a core fan base that really likes them for what they were, because it harkens back to the old days where wings were actually just a pipe dream.
Yeah, exactly. But back in the day, these race cars really were the bare basics and the bare bones of motor racing. And funnily enough, in India, we still race them. That's right, the Formula Maruti car or the Formula LGB car is a car that I get the privilege of commentating on every year in the national championships. And it's funny because all the young drivers, they complain initially when they have to drive the car, saying, oh, it's too old, oh, it's got no downforce, oh, it's too raw, no comforts whatsoever, no power steering. But every single driver that ends up driving this car, Amir, walks away a 10 times better driver than they were before. And it says a lot about how much this car enables you as a driver, no?
Yeah, and the fact that they also have the kind of similar production engines. It's a Swift engine, isn't it? Because I recall it was called the LG Swift at one point. Yeah, Maruti's and Suzuki's are pretty much the same in India. But yeah, and in fact, the Formula LGV cars look pretty much like the Formula Vs anyway. So shout out to guys like Sanjeev Pala, who actually had a featurette back in what we call Star Sports back in the day when he drove around Madras circuit. That was really a long time ago now, kind of thinking it. But but yeah, it's really a nice. It's a nice car to start out with, and it's dirt cheap as well compared to Formula 4 cars, which were intended to be cheap, but unfortunately have become more and more expensive as the years gone by.
You're so right, but cheap can also mean cheerful, which is the kind of racing we're getting to see between Lozano and Dantas for the lead, and that's the kind of battle that we all tune in to watch at the AMX One Light Championship. In fact, the lead might just change here. Lozano, the championship elect driver, has now seized the lead and he's on the way to win the title. Dantas can only watch and look as Lozano grabs the lead from him, but now Lozano will have to defend hard because Dantas wants to act and act immediately. Is he looking for a move on the inside line here, turning it to the right-hander? They hop over the curbs a little bit, but there's nothing doing for now. This battle, though, will be on till the very end, Amir.
Indeed, and I did predict that it would take about 5 laps for him to get up to the front. +2 on that, it's 7, but nonetheless, he has gotten the job done. Now it's a matter of trying to keep making it a formality. As but further behind, what happened to Pereira? He has actually had a massive slide coming through Sachs curve. So Christian Pereira then, we saw that actually while we were talking about the Formula LGBs cars. It was in the background, but Pereira lost a bit of time and a position to Martin Chico. So Chico's actually gotten up in front of the Brazilian. Now he has to at least keep that position away from Nico Godoy. It might be a bit difficult because Godoy is catching up on him bit by bit. But up in front, Lozano then trying to stamp his authority in this championship and then some, Sawmill.
And it would be some way to win the championship. So far, he's been one of the most consistent drivers in this championship. He's raced more races than anyone else. He's got, actually not anyone else, he's raced the same number of races in this class as Diego Villarreal. But still, his results have been that much better. He's really been a master of all the other cars. And hey, Martin Chico has a bit of a guest joining in. This is lovely to see. I'm not sure if it's his son or cousin or whatever it might be. But great to see the family joining in the racing action. And the young ones also getting inspired by the racing. I mean, when you see someone at your house driving a simulator when you're that young, it's hard not to look, is it?
Yeah, I think he's trying that kid is trying to do a Penelope Verstappen, or sorry, Penelope PK of disrupting the big brother or daddy to drive in a very erratic way so that mommy can have something to talk about afterwards. But luckily for Chico, it didn't really disrupt him that much, and he's still in P4, albeit 11 seconds behind Villarreal. As now we're running into the penultimate lap of this first heat. It looks as though Dantas actually is now slightly faster than Lozano, about 400 that time round. He's not being lost by Lozano, so it's not easy sailing here as we come to the closing stages.
Only one more lap left to go after the end of this one, and Evandro Dantas is still not that far away. For sure, he's lost a bit of time, 1.1 seconds, but it could be going wrong at any given point in time. That's the nature of this car. But when you look at someone like Maurizio Lozano driving today, you get a feeling that nothing can go wrong with this guy, because he literally started dead last at the start of this race. He's overcome every single driver on this race to end up sealing his championship as it stands. He will be taking the win, he will be taking the championship, and he will be taking home that beautiful sim rig courtesy of our partners at Next Level Racing. Last lap left to go for the first heat. Lozano will be taking it from pole to win, but Dantas will have to give him a tough time. 1.3 seconds as we come to the start of the final lap of this race. Is there any room for any chaos, Amir?
Well, it looks as though it might not be so, but again, anything can happen in the final lap. We've seen that before in a couple of AMX rounds prior to this. And Lozano has actually responded to Dantas' fast lap previously by going about 3 times faster as Chico now gets into that. It looks as though the little kid may have actually been a bit of a nuisance that time around, because Chico slides it in the hairpin and loses a position to Pereira, because there we go, Pereira takes the position away from him. But the upshot is that he will start P2 next time by, as Godoy is not that far either, so it might be a little bit of a battle. As, there we go, there's a swap in positions. Godoy gets out to P4. Would you believe it? There's a bit of a change of position. There's that calamity you were talking about. I was saying, well, might not happen. Well, you're proving right that time. It has happened, and Godoy takes it. So Lozano now comes through the stadium section for the final time. Take it away, Sawmill.
It has been a drive to remember for Maurizio Lozano. He rounds off the final couple of corners in a car that challenges the best of the very best. Lozano has proven that he is indeed the best of the very best in the AMX1 light class. It is victory for Maurizio Lozano at the end of the first heat, and he's got one hand and four fingers on that championship. Phenomenal drive to go from last to first, and Evandro Dantas follows him home in second place.
And Villarreal take a bow. That's a definitely solid podium for him, doing Gonzalo Rodriguez's helmet a lot of justice here, coming across the line in front of Godoy. So Godoy, another veteran, gets out to P4. That's a nice sight. As across the line is a bit of a grandstand finish, but it is P5 for Pereira, and Chico, well, he went 0-0 in a very quick space of time in P6. So that's a chaotic end to the first heat. Can't wait for the second one.
Here are the results then. Maurizio Lozano with probably not the biggest smile on the face, but still a big performance from him. Winning by 1.6 seconds, even though he had P6 at the start of the first heat. Evandro Dantas finishes second. It's a good podium for Diego Villarreal. And oh boy, how wrong did it go for Martin Chico, who was just embroiled in all the chaos in the world that he could possibly ask for. But that means he will be starting the second heat in P1, which is the place to be. But knowing this car, knowing this track, I think starting orders isn't quite the most relevant thing in the world, though, is it, Amir?
No, certainly, because with such a wide track in respect for these cars, overtaking is just possible anywhere, so long as you can keep it clean. As we are underway for heat number 2, we're off now, and on board with Maurizio Lozano, champion-elect, or more or less confirmed champion now, coming through the field. As you can see, Pereira got off the slow start, bogged it, but there's no troubles for him. He's ready to actually take heat number 2 by the scruff of his neck as well.
Already a bit of a bad start for Pereira. He's dropped down all the way down, and here we are with Maurizio Lozano watching his progress so far, gaining positions courtesy of that bad start of Pereira and a rather average one from Evandro Dantas. But Dantas will be wanting to avenge his result from the last race. He is on the outside line of Maurizio Lozano. He is going for a brave move. There is contact, there is chaos. Godoy spins, Pereira spins, and the first lap brings drama unlike any other.
Yeah, but unfortunately for them, that was the sort of drama they did not want. And right at back, both of them go. So they're back to square one in terms of how their races are going to plan out. Meanwhile, up in front, Villarreal really going right through Saxco there, defending from Chico. Looks as though the second heat has awakened Villarreal a bit, and that podium might have actually G'd him on here. So he wants to actually at least take an overall win for the first time this season. But he's got really big company behind. Chico, Dantas, Lozano, all three behind him are just as fast and just as hungry to take that first position away from him.
Here comes Chico then, all the drivers running wide and getting a beautiful 1x courtesy of iRacing as a result. But now, a new member has joined the fight. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Evandro Dantas in this battle for the lead. It's now actually not a 3-car grid, in fact. It is now a 4-car battle for the race win. Maurizio Lozano is also close back down. And look at Dantas. The gap is being eaten away. Corner after corner, lap after lap. They might be bouncing around the curbs, they might be cutting the track here and there, but the action that they're producing is proper drama, proper theatre. And now here comes Dantas. Chico has made a small error. He's opened up the gap a little bit, and there we see a bit of a lock-up from Dantas. In the meantime, what happened with Pereira?
Well, Pereira actually just went for a bit of a lunge there. I think he got it tapped wrong. A bit of net cut might have been involved, so that's what happened to Pereira. Godoy on the other, no, in fact, that is Godoy that we're looking at just now. Pereira behind him just spun out on his own, so that was pretty much a case of cold tires and a bit of over-adhesion in regards to how these cars are a bit more rear biased, so that's why he just probably overstepped it a bit. But regardless of that, they're both cancelling it out for not getting the wooden spoon. Meanwhile, up in front, Chico then tries one again. Villarreal is now on full defensive mode because this is the last time this entire season that he'll be able to be contending for a race win. So he's making the most of it right now. As meanwhile, we're on board with two different cameras. Dad's on board with Villarreal looking behind in the inset. We're on board with Chico right now facing forwards, coming out to the hairpin. Would this be a maneuver? He's thinking about the inside. That's the favorite spot, but I think because he's defending from Dantas, they both touch. they might have actually caused a bit of damage between their cars, with Lozano trying to look at the inside, and he backs it off completely because he might have cut a corner there.
Oopsie daisy, it's all getting a little bit spicy, and Lozano now has to restart his attack right from scratch. Chico, though, is close enough to Villarreal. For sure, there might be a little bit of argy-bargy. For sure, he's facing a little bit of contact eternally at home as well, with his family members getting involved in all the action. But it's going to get even worse now as Villarreal makes an error. Chico goes through at the final corner. This is his chance to seize the lead. This is his chance to take a big win and close off the season in style. Oh,
yep,
wow. And now here comes Dantas.
Yeah, he may not be able to win the championship, but at least he can sign off with a win. But for how long can he hold that lead? Because right now, Dantas, an equally fast guy as him, comes through, locks it up with Villarreal going on the inside with a cutback, gets them back. But with the both of them battling, it gives the opportunity for Chico to make a beeline for it.
Now then, Dantas has another couple of opportunities. Up we go to the right-hander. This is where he's really good under braking. This is where he's actually gaining time, but this time he actually hasn't cut the corner a little bit. That might not be the best thing in the world for his momentum, and the racing line was hardly ideal. And guess what that does? It brings in Maurizio Lozano back in the fight, who, by the way, just a couple of laps ago was around a second behind this pair. Talk about having a dream day, Amir. This guy's on fire.
Yeah, he is definitely gonna eat up that FGT cockpit like a box of full of Golgappas after this, because he really looks like he wants to end this season on a style. Imagine that, he could get the triple crown. He had pole position, he had the first heat win, now he's aiming for a second. So that is a very sweet way to end of the season there, Somil.
It would be indeed, and he's now also the fastest man on the track. That is a flex. We all know that anyway. There's no need for the lap times to prove that. Lozano is quite clearly the fastest man on the track. He makes a mistake, he immediately recovers it back with speed, unlike any driver on the grid. That is phenomenal to see, and it's always been a... With the Formula V car, you make a slight mistake and you lose how much? 3, 4, 10, 0 there. It's a proper driver's car though, and it's so easy for other drivers to make mistakes, and the time that you've lost eventually gets recuperated in what? 1 or 2 laps anyway. This is the perfect car for the kind of action that we love in the AMX1 Championship.
Yeah, but the thing is, right, they have to conserve momentum too, because again, if you get bogged a bit, that's where you lose a lot of your time. Yeah, the drivers can make mistakes as well, but if you were to make the exact same thing, it will be all for naught. So again, it's a delicate balancing act for these guys to not trip over each other and just lose momentum, especially guys who are behind the race leader. Villarreal and Dantas came to blows just now, and they lost a couple of tenths to Chico, but with them staying behind each other's draft, they can easily just recoup back that lost time. Across the line they go. Look at how equal the times are. 15.1 across the board, but with Lozano, the fastest lap there is the 15 flat. So you can tell here, the gap and the pace is absolutely, evidently similar.
Interesting times then as we enter lap number 6 of this second heat. Lozano is your race leader. Lozano is the winner of the last race. Lozano is on the attack, but he's waiting so patiently. We're riding on board with Diego Villarreal on both of his cameras, the front and the back. And you can see how Lozano in the background in that white car is just so smart with it. He does not want that commitment onto Evandro Dantas. He'll just wait for Dantas to make that mistake. And look at that send. Oh, Diego Villarreal got aggressive there. Almost locking up the tires. And guess what? Knock, knock. Who's there? Evandro Dantas it is. Then he goes. Going side by side with Diego Villarreal. He's not going to be brave enough to go to move around the outside, right? Surely he's not. He is. He is brave enough to go around the outside, but it does not quite work.
Yeah, but don't lock the tires, because the moment that the tires cross each other, you're going to have someone flipping into the air. Dantas then was very lucky not to have the wheels cross, and Villarreal thinks better of it, tries to actually defend from Lozano, but goes wide, gets an extra corner cut penalty for that one, because we can see that on our timing screens, the amount of off tracks that happened. Oh, there goes Villarreal off, and again, turn number 2 really is its Achilles heel. Once again, loses momentum and a position, but luckily for him, he didn't end up in the spin. Still about 4 tenths behind Lozano here. But Lozano, bit between his teeth, ready to challenge Dantas and Chico up in front.
He's having to properly work for it. He's having to properly fight for it. This is not going to be a handover to Frankie Lozano in the final race of the championship, where he will be crowned the champion of the AMX Light class. Oh no. Knowing this grid, they will make him fight right down to the very end, right down to the final lap and final couple of corners. And now his next fight, his next big opponent, is an opponent he's faced time and again, an opponent he's beaten time and again as well, but one who will never back down. It is Evandro Dantas, and from what we've seen in the last couple of laps, Dantas is one cheeky fellow. If he defends the way he's been attacking the last couple of laps, I don't think it's going to be played safe for Lozano, who's actually now, for the first time, lapped slower than Dantas himself.
But Dantas has the fastest lap, so shows that he has the pace. But conversely, you can see Lozano actually is closing up on him, so the pace is pretty much plateauing between the both of them. It's just a matter of who blinks first, and it looks as though Dantas may just try to keep his eyes wide open a bit more as outside goes Lozano. Dantas goes to the inside. He comes to the hairpin. This is a big point of contention. Oh, the wheels lock! And I just said before, didn't I say it? Don't touch wheels. If you lock it, someone's going to flip. And Lozano flipped it big time. Called it right there, Samuel.
And there we are then, Mexican Airlines, up in the air goes Lozano, and his tires, well, they have been absolutely shattered. It might be a day of celebration, but it's celebration, yeah, they are punctured, they are gone. Lozano, your champion-elect, the winner of the first heat, the man who qualified first in qualifying, has seen the air and has landed back down with an impact that will shatter his race. But it doesn't matter at the end, because he will eventually have his hands on the championship. But wow, that was some crash, and you call it so well, Amir.
Yeah. I did say earlier, if the wheels were interlocked, someone might get launched into the air. And I didn't expect Lozano to be the one who did that, but he literally was Icarus into the sky and fell back to terra firma almost immediately. And luckily for him, the car landed right side up, even though he was actually on his roll hoop when he hit the barriers. But luckily for him, landed back on all four wheels, well, 3.5 wheels, because he had a puncture on that front right. Amazingly, that's what happened. As you can see there, oh, he actually lost standard braking, the wheels touch, flips into the air, onto his roll hoop, and he goes onto the grass. But again, that barrier touch actually sent him the right way up, so he was Australian for only just about 5 seconds, and then back to becoming Mexican again.
And he's back in the race as well. It'll be 3 seconds down from everyone. So it's probably not going to be the most beautiful possible end for Lozano as you'd imagine, but he'll be fine. He won't rue that as much. But I'll tell you what, the loser of this particular battle really will be ruining it quite a lot, because the intensity of it has been amazing. Martin Chico has not just been fighting Evandro Dantas. In fact, he's also been, also been fighting for his attention in the meantime, because one of his younger family members has been a constant, I want to say interruption. It's a beautiful interruption though. They've been constantly trying to be by his side, trying to see what Chico is doing and trying to understand what this world of sim racing is. So Chico is doing two things at the same time. He's fighting Dantas, and he's also trying to keep his attention at the racetrack. And Dantas will really want to take advantage of that. He's on the favorite inside line. They touch wheels. Dantas almost going up in the air. He sends it. He taps the back of Chico. And that could well be it.
Not yet. We still have about 6 laps left to go here. But Dantas playing with fire once again like Dante's Inferno, because he actually survived that first hit by sending Lozano skywards. He sent himself skywards there with the 2 wheels interlocking again. Can you imagine if the both of them hit? That would give Villarreal the best way to sign off a season by getting a win at last. So really then, multiple storylines coming to the fore here into Singularity in his final heat of the entire AMX Light season. AMX1 Light season.
Only 5 odd more laps till we close this entire championship, and today's race really represents the kind of chaotic season it has been. Chico, in fact, as you can see clearly from his camera, is doing more than one thing at the same time. And if it was a GT3 car, you'd be fine with it, but it's a Formula V car. It already demands more attention than any car on the iRacing platform, and then to be playing with your younger toddler sibling or cousin or even son. I'm not even sure about what that is, what the relation between them is. But whatever it is, they'll be playing with a family member in the middle of a race while being distracted and still doing the kind of job Chico is doing. Hats off to him. I mean, this guy has some concentration. Seriously, the way he's driving so far is quite something. Dantas is quite clearly taking advantage of that. You put him back down and he pops back up again. He's like that hammer game that you see in the arcades. You hit him down and he'll always pop up.
Yeah, whack-a-mole. That really is a case of keeping your attention to one thing and then you have to hit another. But the thing is, right, you normally say that, well, this is a sort of person that cannot take care of a Caesar salad. You cannot even let that person do it. But he's doing more than that. He's taking care of a Caesar salad while trying to cook up a big meal for royalty here. Really, he has had attention diverted multiple times, front and rear and in IRL, but he's still somehow up in front, amazingly, and he only has about 4 laps left to go to do so here, to hold on. What could be said is a win that he could be talking about for years to come.
Seriously, Chico will be telling this particular story to his younger sibling, or actually younger family member, who's actually been by his side during this race as well. When they grow up, Chico will surely be telling them, remember, you were playing with me on that simulator. That's the race I won. But he probably might have to change the ending because Dantas has slipped through. Chico will really have to fight to change the story. Now he's on the back end. Now he has to attack. Now he has to go back into serious mode. And already he's sending one on the inside.
Yeah, Dantas with an opportunistic move again, and that favorite overtaking spot for many drivers, the hairpin in this short layout, the national layout of the Hockenheimring. But it's not over yet. Chico can still write the ending for himself here. Coming out of the final corner through the Sud curve, onto the start-finish straight. He's got the slipstream, but Dantas goes narrow. He's got the momentum though. He's got to try around the outside. He might just forego getting a cut track here if it means taking the lead of the race. Look at that. Around the outside he goes. Side by side between Dantas and Chico, the Brazilian and the Argentine going at the hammer and tongs, and add a Uruguayan into the mix. Villarreal's right behind both of them, watching brief in case something dramatic happens.
And he's popped back up in this battle, and Chico, you can tell, has seriously gotten serious about this race. He has now moved forward in his chair, which is clearly the sign of a gamer getting angry and getting serious. And they touch, they make contact. In the barriers goes Chico, out goes Dantas. And it seems like Villarreal has cashed in his money in the bank with just a couple of laps left to go. He is going to end up being the winner, thriving from all the chaos that we've seen so far.
Oh no, that is such a devastating way to finish a race, isn't it? That is like the most anticlimactic way. We thought at one point Chico might have been able to just clinch the one, but then Dantas, I don't know, for the love of me and you combined, how was he just pushing that much, thinking that he could survive another mid-air collision that time? But he took himself and Chico out, with Chico bearing most of the brunt. He might try to finish the race with 3 wheels on his wagon, but it looks as though that damage may just necessitate a pit stop because he can barely turn. Look, he cannot even turn right anymore. He has to come in, otherwise he will just have to retire the car. Such a devastating way to end the season though, there, Sawmill.
Yeah, he was driving so well. It would have been a story to tell for decades. Having a younger family member with you, fiddling it on, having fun with you while you're going into your race. Oh, what a beautiful story it would have been. But the ending now, unfortunately, a bit of a sad and a bit of a somber one. But the battles are going on. And is that Maurizio Lozano with a punctured tire now fighting for P4? Seriously?
No, that's not Lozano. That's actually Godoy. Godoy now has a puncture. Yeah, it looks punctured. It may just be a graphical glitch, but it looks fine by my screen. I think, yeah, it's fine now. Maybe it was just the angle is taken. But Lozano, P5, that's not the way that he wants to end the season. He's got to put him inside, though. That will be a nice consolation. He goes on the inside. Pereira takes away P4. Now he's ready to actually take away Godoy's podium, and that will be quite a sad way to end it as well. As we look at the Chico Dantas crash again. Yeah, again, Dantas really haphazard with his defending and sends both of them out of the way as Lozano goes around the outside. White flag flies for the final time this season in MX1 Light. Chico as into the barriers there. Lozano gets through and Godoy has his podium taken away. He would have been really ecstatic with that one.
And it could even be worse now because Pereira has joined the party as well. He wants to take another position from Godoy. Oh boy, this is going to be such a fun ending to what has been a phenomenal season in the AMX One Light Championship. Lozano, he was literally in the air a few laps ago. He's now fighting for a podium. In fact, he could well seal it because Godoy's attack isn't quite going as well as he planned. At the front, Diego Villarreal, who was nowhere close to winning this race, has thrived from the chaos between Dantas and Chico and is on his way to take a phenomenal win at the end of the season and to claim that big $7 cash prize. But the final couple of corners are here. What a season it has been so far.
Yeah,
and then
unbelievably,
to round off the corners,
Villarreal will take it. Yeah, Villarreal will take a really popular win here, Somil.
He has indeed, cashing in the money in the bank with 2 laps to go. He seemed nowhere close to be the winner. He is your winner though. Diego Villarreal winning the last race of the AMX One Light Championship. Behind him, Ivandro Dantas has survived the chaos to finish second. But ladies and gentlemen, stand up and up. He's been Mr. He's been the fastest. Maurizio Lozano is your brand new AMX One Light Champion.
Wow, did he have to work for it in that last one? But surviving a mid-air flip and a puncture to get into the pit stop to necessitate fixing the damage, he came through for the second heat, but at first heat and qualifying proved why he was champion material, and he has fulfilled that promise by coming across the line to take an emphatic championship despite finishing third in the final race of the entire season. But it won't matter that much, and the FGT rig is coming his way.
And what a prize it would be, deserving of a champion. Here's your session winner, Diego Villarreal, waving to the cameras, and yeah, you can see the smile on his face. You can see how happy he looks. He's just won $7 as a part of that cash prize, but mostly it's the pride of stealing a win away from the likes of Chico and Lozano and Dantas as well, who were all seemingly the prime contenders for this. That's the thing with the Formula V car. Never count anyone out of this one. You might just be third or fourth. You could still end up being the winner. But we have a champion. And what a champion Lozano is, isn't he, Amir? It's been a season to remember for him. And it's quite clearly a representation that consistency rewards.
Absolutely. And of course, being fast when it really matters for him, because you can tell he prioritizes qualifying, but he also does the race quite well. So really then, happy to see that it's a well-deserved champion here for this season, and plenty more champions to crown still to come here, Tamil.
They are indeed, because after this short break, we are going to be back with some TCR action. That is also going to be at the Hockenheimring. Don't you worry, instead of the short circuit, we are going to the longer one. And that action will be full of some really top drivers. So stay right here. We'll be back with more. But before we go, we have to give a shout out once more to our new AMX One Light champion, Maurizio Lozano. You, my friend, have earned it. But that's all from the AMX One Light Championship. Back after a short break with more TCR action. Be right here on the channel. I know you'll be right here.
We must travel through the gateway to find new energy.
Well, hello there, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the AMX 10 Championship. Today we're racing front-wheel drive cars. Today we're racing TCR cars, and that means it's going to be totally chaotic racing action. And the circuit of choice for all of us today is going to be the Hockenheimring in Germany. Now, it's a circuit that's commonly known for tons and tons of Formula 1 action, for tons of sports car action, the DTM Championship, FIA Formula 3, as you rightly mentioned earlier on as well, Amir. But TCR cars at Hockenheim, this is a little bit of an interesting choice, isn't it?
It is, but the fact that it is also not out of the realm of possibility, because we also had TCR Germany at one point, or the ADAC TCR Championship, before it unfortunately folded, but they did race at the Hockenheim as well, so it's, again, a familiar thing for all of us involved here.
And also familiar will be the drivers, because taking part in today's race, which is going to be the finale for the front-wheel drive class, are going to be very, very familiar names. The likes of Gael Valero, Roman Pascucci, Gonzalo Fabi, Alejandro Sanchez, Pedro Dean, Dino Filippa. These are drivers, Amir, who we have seen race so many different cars in the AMX Championship. And today, to conclude the front-wheel drive season, it's great to see them come back. And the entire gang is back together. And with TCR cars, it always means good racing, right?
Yeah, the boys are back in town, or in this case, the boys are back in town for one last fling, because it really is a combination of the entire season coming here with a championship and some scores still to settle here, Somil.
Yup, and in this entire championship, we've seen many top drivers come and go. Kieran Harrison so far was the leader, but today we are not seeing him in the top of the times in qualifying so far. So it's going to be an interesting session to see how things go on. But many top names, Kieran Harrison being one of them, Florian Lebigre being one of them, Gonzalo Fabi, as we mentioned earlier, the young Alejandro Sanchez is also in the mix. And by the way, there's also a young 16-year-old who's actually raced TCR cars in real life called Attila Bushi. He has competed in TCR Eastern Europe and actually was fast enough to even get a pole position there. It's so many top drivers in the mix, Amir, that it's hard to really pick one who you really pick as the favorite. I mean, that is phenomenal, isn't it? For us, it just makes it all the more better.
Absolutely, and again, we don't know how to call this one. So many good drivers and so many talented TCR guys put into one go. It's just hard to call, so we're just going to let the action play out for itself, and we can call it as it is.
Yep, exactly. And let's tell you more about this championship as we approach the final round of this front-wheel drive class. So, how does it all work out? Quite simply put, we've got over 10 weeks of racing action that has happened right before us. And the race format in this class has been very, very simple. 20 minutes of qualifying followed by 2 heat races. But it's not a simple session as you think it would be. There is a reverse grid on offer, which means that after you're done with qualifying, the top 15 get reversed to form the grid for Heat 1. So P1 goes to P15, P15 goes to P1, and so on and so forth we go to set the grid for race number 1. That one is also a 20-minute heat race. No special rules, no mandatory pit stop, nothing of that sort. Just wave the green flag, wave the checkered flag, and watch the action unfold in the middle. But that's not all, because after the race is done, the top 15 from Heat 1 also then get reversed. So if you're P1 at the end of Heat 1, you will then have to start at P15 for the start of Heat number 2. So hypothetically, if you're the pole position person in qualifying, you will be starting P15 at Heat 1, and let's assume you win it in Heat 1. You will then have to start in P15 again for Heat 2. So there's never going to be any stability. Drivers will have to fight for position at any given point in time, which means that top drivers will always be somewhere in the mid-pack, which means more chaos, more action, and more entertainment for all of us. And by the way, folks, you can also join this championship right away. We've got 2 more rounds left coming in this Saturday and Sunday as well to close off the entire season. And if you've got a certain amount of iRacing, you can indeed pay $10 to enter the AMX 10 Championship as well, simply by visiting the amxrace.com website and registering right away. And when do we race? Well, it's a very convenient timing if you are somewhere in the Americas. Early in the morning for you on Tuesdays, Saturdays and Sundays. And so far, be it AMX 1, be it AMX 10, we've had a packed grid all the way through. 7:20 p.m. is the time we go racing for AMX 10. Check your watches. It is 7:20 p.m. GMT, which means it is time to go racing and time for qualifying action. But before that, let's tell you what the drivers have to win. It's a big prize pool. If you have a minimum of 2000 I rating, you can enter by paying $10 only. And it's kind of like winner take all, because with a $500 prize pool per race, there is so much to win for every driver. Hypothetically, the maximum you can win over an entire weekend would be a total of $98, $30 for winning each session, 3 of them in fact. You even get paid for qualifying well, and eventually $4 each for the fastest lap in each qualifying session. So you can never slack off, not even in qualifying, not in any of the heats. It's always go, 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 go in every AMX 10 session. Here's a look at the top 12 that we've had so far in this race, in this season, my apologies, and look at the quality of the drivers. Kyle Valero for Apex Racing, a driver with credibility all over his name, and he's won a lot in this season so far. A total of $1,337, but that's just the top of the pyramid. Even if you look at someone like Tobias Soriano, who's only entered 1/3 of the races that Kyle Valero has, he's also taken home a handsome figure of $366. Do you want a pool of this as well? Join in. Visit amxrace.com, and with only 2 more races left in the season, there is a lot for you to win so far. And here's a look at the championship table. The winner gets that beautiful looking GT Elite rig, courtesy of our partners at Next Level Racing. And a lot of drivers have come and a lot of drivers have gone. A lot of good drivers have tried. Drivers like Corentin Cunha, a TCR expert in himself. David Perez, Pedro Dean, Dustin Kulhavi has been a mainstay. Norbert Leitner has been a good driver as well. And Kyle Valero, as always, in whatever race he enters, he's always a favorite to do well. But who is the leader of this pack? The leader is Kieran Harrison, a front-wheel drive expert on iRacing, a driver synonymous with being TCR royalty on this platform. If Kieran Harrison isn't leading a TCR race, there's probably something going wrong in that race completely. He's on course, of course, to seal the championship here today. And the venue, we are racing at Hockenheim, the final track of this entire season for the front-wheel drive class. By the way, folks, just before we talk more about the track information, let's also keep in mind that in the middle of May, the AMX season will be back for season number 5. So the racing action will only be dead for a few weeks here and there. But the racing will continue afterwards, after a short break. But to close off this entire season, Amir, I don't think we could have chosen a better track than the Hockenheimring.
Indeed, and again, we just run through what we know about it. The Hockenheimring in the city of Baden-Württemberg in Germany, of course. Opened first in 1932 as a street circuit, as I mentioned before, a triangle street circuit, but then it got closed up sometime in the 60s where we raced through the forest. But then in 2002 came the biggest change of the lot. We came to the venue that we know and love today for its overtaking prowess, especially on the hairpin sections. We're going to see more of that here as we're going to use the full 4.5 kilometer Grand Prix layout. So all the TCR cars can stretch their legs a bit, especially through the stadium section that comes after the truncated area before the forest section. But nonetheless, it's a classic circuit that has become, and it's a great feature in the iRacing. So glad to see that we got this laser scan and accurate version of the track. And what cars are we racing on? Well, none other than the venerable TCR class that was first introduced sometime around 2013, if I'm not mistaken, because it was as a stopgap between the TC1 and TC2 cars of the time, but it has become the eminent touring car class in the world of motorsport. 315 horsepower to 350, but some cars, especially the likes of the Hyundais, can actually hit up to 354, so just minor sliding variations between here and there. But front-wheel drive category, of course, it's pretty much what the car that your parents drive on the road. 1,200 kilograms, 1,500 kilograms in weight, and a sequential shifter. So None of that H pattern thingy-majigs that people get to work through the gears of. This is as simple as flicking the wrist on a gear stick. But these cars, despite the normal-looking exterior, can provide some really good action. And so far this entire season, we've been entertained by some of the closest and most frenetic races we've seen so far, Somil.
Indeed, yeah, and with the TCR cars, it's always fun to call them the totally chaotic racing cars, because that's what the entire racing action with them is always like. It is never calm, it is never peaceful, it is never ever quiet with these things. And even in qualifying, which is the session ongoing right now, we are seeing so much of action ongoing at the moment. Remember folks, a 20-minute qualifying session with the fastest lap driver winning a beautiful $30 cash prize coming their way. And there's all to play for in it, for every single one of the drivers competing. And let's talk about them briefly. Kieran Harrison, leading the championship, is of course leading this race and leading this qualifying session as well. But in terms of drivers who you think can challenge him up here, I think there are a few to choose from this time, aren't there?
Yeah, we can see right now on our timing screens, it will pop on screen pretty soon. Felipe is quite close there. He is also an exponent of the TCR category. And let's not forget the Hungarians. We got two of them, in fact, three of them here at one point. But now it's either Leitner or Bushi that you mentioned about, a sensation in the TCR Eastern European category. So that's one to watch out for the future. And again, another 16-year-old you mentioned as well that really has ruffled some feathers in the sim racing community and IRL. It's nice to see how he will progress in his sim racing career. But for the time being, we're looking at the present, and it's Kieran Harrison who is extending his gap up in front to 0.2 of a second. He just had the fastest lap in qualifying here, Somil.
Expected to say the least? Well, quite simply, he has been one of the fine drivers of the TCR class, Kieran Harrison. But it's a good opportunity for the rest of the class as well to test themselves against Kieran, who for years and years and years has been a mainstay in this class. And this will be a fun challenge because a lot of the other drivers normally drive other cars. Some drive best cars, some drive GT3s. Of course, Kieran Harrison also does not just do TCRs, he's also got experience racing in other categories as well. But this is his mainstay, this is his bread and butter. But I want to talk about the youngsters, I want to talk about the 16-year-olds. Alejandro Sanchez and Bushi, Attila Bushi that is, from Hungary. What were you doing at 16 away? Seriously, to have the talent that these guys have, I think these guys are literal prototypes in the world of iRacing. It's insane.
Yeah. Well, around their age as well at that time, I was sim racing as well, but not to this extent where it has become such a widespread thing, as we are actually spotlighting a different sort of driver. But nonetheless, he's a seasoned veteran. Kieran Harrison, leader of the front-wheel drive championship AMX 10, 24 years old, driving for SimRC, same team as, well, I thought it was according to Guinness. In fact, Guinness, yes, he was the same team as him in the previous season. You can follow his social media at K Harrison Racing, a Brit who nonetheless has pretty much really acquainted himself well with the art of driving a front-wheel drive car and then some. But can he clinch the championship today? He has one hand on the trophy, but he still has plenty of sharks in the water to clear off.
He does have indeed, and among those drivers, it's great to see Dino Filippa up there as well, who has consistently been the bridesmaid, but probably not just there to take that big race win. Today could be that opportunity, and if that earlier AMX 1 race that we saw was anything to go by, the Hockenheimring is a place that generates so much chaos because of so many action points. Turn 1 is a big place because you carry so much speed into there, but this corner after that, turn 2, turn 3, these sections, and then the hairpin, they offer so much of room for you to send a dive bomb that inevitably action will happen.
Indeed, and plenty of action will no doubt happen after this, because that is what we can say, like in shooting terms, a choke point where many cars file in. Some drivers may miss their braking point, others might just actually go wide as a safety measure to avoid said incidents. And we have seen that before in the past as well, especially the very first race of the W Series season that happened there. Emma came aligned and hit the side of another driver, who she was. But really, again, that tight hairpin really is a great overtaking spot, but also a massive choke point.
And so many drivers have tried to make moves there, so many of them successfully have done that as well. But it isn't the easiest place in the world. But normally, it's interesting actually, because what we've seen so far in the AMX 10 category is that in race number 1, all the drivers are very disciplined, very calm, very composed in the way they drive. But in AMX race number 2 for AMX 10, chaos always unfolds. It's like they turn a switch on, and from being one of the best, cleanest drivers in the world, they end up being the most manic and rowdy ones. Which means that if you qualify in pole position, sure, race number 1 might be compromised, but there is lots of room for you to get a good result in race number 2.
Yeah, in fact, the key point to note is, for drivers who are chasing after the Triple Crown, the coveted one here in AMX, we literally see those fast guys try to get out to the front immediately in heat number 2, as Attila Bushi has actually gone offline there for a second. So maybe he actually wasn't happy with that first corner, because you can see where his hand, he raised it up in gesticulation that he wasn't happy with the track limits, and now he has to work it through again and try another lap. But I don't think he has enough time, because 2.5 minutes left to go after this is going to be very nip and tuck, with the cars lapping just shy of under 2 minutes around the full Grand Prix layout here at the Hockenheimring.
Yep, it's a long circuit for TCR cars, which aren't particularly the fastest on the straights or the corners as well. But the beauty of this car, it simply has to be the adaptability, right? Because of all the downforce as well, even though we've got tons and tons of it, it somehow still happens to be a car that's great for racing. And yes, it might be costly in the real world, but at least on the iRacing service, we can properly enjoy it.
Absolutely, and well, the way that the drivers in iRacing do it is exciting. But personally for me, I was a avid touring car watcher, but kind of dipped out a bit after the TCR years, because it was like maybe because everyone got used to the cars, it was just very single file. But it's not the sort of the case here we see on iRacing, because we've seen so many great races. In fact, I think the front wheel drive category is the best one of the entire season, hands clear here, as we saw it. We see Leitner claim second place here on the grid. Well, not on the grid per se, but he's second place in qualifying, just 3/10 behind Kieran Harrison. And it looks as though that might be the end of qualifying, because it's the 5 minute. As somebody in the comments just keep his ass, did Diego win? We're talking about Villarreal, of course, in the race prior in the Formula V car. Yes, in fact, he did. Emphatically, after the two leaders take each other out. So you missed out a lot, as, oh, we didn't miss that. That's Valera in the barriers, and that's the end of his qualifying here. So much to talk about, and so little time, though. Sawmill, we're going to get ready for the race already.
Indeed, yeah, it's all kicking up together, all at the same time, and that's been the feature of the AMX 10 category so far. Every single time, there has always been so much action here, be it in qualifying, be it in the race, every single time. And in today's race, it's going to be no different, as we see qualifying come to a very end. So it would be Kieran Harrison, surprise, surprise, who has taken pole position in the TCR class. Everyone expected this. He walked in as the championship leader. He has the chip on the back, and he knows how to dominate this class. But this is where things are going to get very fun, because of the qualifying format, Kieran will not be starting first. He, in fact, will go right to the back of the grid, all the way to P14, and it'll be Florian Lebigre starting the next race on pole position, which is interesting because he is a driver who knows how to defend, as we saw in the last couple of races in the MX 10 category. More interesting stories to watch for. Tobias Soriano at the front, he's going to be a proper menace for all the other drivers. But interestingly, Alejandro Sanchez is going to be somewhere in the mid-pack.
Yep, and interesting as well, look at the back. Florian Lebigre, he did not set a time. And let's see how this goes, because sometimes when a driver did not set a time in qualifying, they start from the back anyway. So that would mean Pedro Dean and Tobias Soriano will be at the front of the grid. So we'll wait and see first what the game entails here in terms of how the grid is lining up. There we go, entering Heat 1 right now. And it is Lebigre who's on pole. So he does get it despite not setting a time. But how long will he hold on to the lead? We'll have to wait and see here coming into the first heat there, Sawmill.
Okay then, we're waiting for the race to begin. It's going to be the second last heat race of the entire AMX 10 front-wheel drive class. Florian Lebigre is going to be on pole position. Pedro Dean joining him on the front row. But the drivers you need to watch for: Tobias Soriano in third, Gaston Kulhavi in fifth, and then Alejandro Sanchez in ninth, along with the big names like Kieran Harrison starting at the back of the field. Normally, TCR cars don't do standing starts. Today, we change that perception. Here we go then. The entire grid is lined up, the green flag is up in the air, and off we go for Heat 1 of the AMX 10 front-wheel drive class. Hockenheim is always the home to so much drama, but at the first corner, it seems like there's barely any, as all the cars are clean with a couple of them just running slightly wide of the first corner. It is still Pedro Reed who's leading at the end of the first corner, but look at this. Kieran Harrison in the back with the Simas yellow car, not making major progress. There's a send down the inside. It's Tobias Soriano, one of the star drivers of this category, giving it his all as there's chaos in the background.
Harrison's off. Harrison actually, in fact, no, it's Lebigre. I thought for a second I saw a SimRC car going up, but luckily front-wheel drive cars, as you can clearly tell, are easy to recover because once you get punted off, you just plow the throttle, the car straightens itself out. So Harrison luckily held on to it. But the big victim out of all that is Florian Lebigre. Despite starting on pole position, has been punted off and he's out of the race, unfortunately for him. Felipe also involved there. He's one of the main front runners. But up in front is an Argentine 1-2. Soriano and Pascucci with an interloping Brazilian in the form of Pedro Dean in third, Fabi in fourth. It's all kicking off here, and it was just in the first couple of sectors.
This is turning out to be a proper derby match at the very top, with Pedro Dean getting punted slightly out of the way by Gonzalo Fabi, who's taken P3 and has now made it an all-Argentine top 3. Brazil versus Argentina in the football is so interesting and always heated, and in the race is even more. Now, another driver going off wide. That would have to be Gaston Kulhavi, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, it is indeed. And look at this. Pedro Dean is in the grass. That is disaster. He was running as high up as P3 and Dean is up wide.
Yeah, he was actually getting up there, but he got crowded out by the Argentines. Valero as well went onto the gravel trap coming into the stadium section. Amazingly, manages to hold on to it and stays in front of, looks at it, his teammate as well from the Apex Racing team. As Sanchez needs to hold off Norbert Leitner, and that's one of the fast Hungarians, the Magical Magyars, coming by with Harrison as well, falling on the coattails. As up in front, there's Fabi on the inside of Soriano. Takes it, but they go side by side. He can still change here. Soriano bangs wheels. Oh, he takes him out. Unfortunately, that was one contact too many. Luckily, though, manages to keep it going because, again, front-wheel drive comes to his rescue, but he's sent all the way to the back of his group.
These TCR cars are tanks. Robbing is racing, but that will most definitely be reviewed by the AMX esports stewards who are watching with a very, very keen eye, as all of you are on the broadcast as well. It's an Apex Racing double attack. Wow, we're seeing so many positions being changed. In fact, drivers going side by side. Marcelo Reales has moved up into P2 with a really stellar drive, and he's really been a smart one. But Gal Valero and Alejandro Sanchez now going wheel to wheel. That's actually Gaston Kulhavi, who sent one on the inside of Alejandro Sanchez and has taken P4. This is going to be one fun battle because Gaston Kulhavi might not have the same degree of raw pace that Alejandro Sanchez has in every car that he walks into. But you talk about courage, you talk about grit, you talk about determination. That is something that Kulhavi has in abundance, and Sanchez will be learning that the hard way as he taps the back of his car.
Yeah, we saw Kulhavi before in terms of determination, where he was punted off in Jerez. Incidentally, the race that we talked about as one of being the best one for the entire season. Kulhavi was punted off in the start of heat number 1, came back around and won heat number 2 emphatically after holding up the entire field, then got away towards the end, as he is going to use every amount of his skill to keep behind Alejandro Sanchez. Both are definitely Spanish speakers, so let's hope that no profanity comes out of both of them if they want to come a cropper. As Sanchez goes onto the inside here, coming up to turn 2. Kulhavi didn't get enough time to defend and lets the Apex driver through, following his teammate on, Valero up in front. So that's going to be a barometer to watch out for after this, as Norbert Leitner now is also interested to get in on the action. The top 3, though, are making a beeline for it. Pascucci, Reales, and Valero, your top 3, with Sanchez and Kulhavi fighting for 4th and 5th right now. We're looking from the back of Alejandro Sanchez. He is being flashed at by Kulhavi. He's not gonna let that die easily.
That's what some would call a typical BMW driver move coming in from an Audi driver. Not derogating any brand right there. That's just what the stereotypes look like. And Kulhavi making his presence felt very much on Alejandro Sanchez, who has very smartly gained that position, actually. You must say that. Because in this entire battle, knowing Kulhavi, knowing Sanchez, knowing how both of them love to get their elbows down, I really expected things to get messier. But that's where the experience comes in. That's where you look at the average iRacing between the two drivers. And it will come in at somewhere between 9,000, and that is a lot. And that tells you the quality and the class of the drivers we're dealing with. These are not any amateurs. If you're new into the esports scene, and if you don't know who these drivers are, think of it like the best of the very best. Think of it like the drivers you see with a gold license in WEC. The drivers who can race the best cars, and sometimes things go wrong, as it has done. Gaston Kulhavi gets tapped wide, and that one will sting. Norbert Leitner coming in with the late move on the inside, and yeah, you can see the annoyance in Kulhavi's face.
Yeah, he got absolutely dumped out as we see that first lap incident. You can see that Bushi actually being spun around. Luckily, got it going again. But on the other side of the screen, the B-Gray was even bigger in terms of his collision, got knocked out of the race, and he's back in pit lane. Whereas Felipe as well, one of the main front runners, he's coming into pit lane probably to serve a penalty, because I didn't see him get involved in any collision post first corner scuffle. But apart from that, the rest of the field as you were, apart from a couple of drivers making moves, including the likes of Kieran Harrison, who's trying to line one up, coming into the hairpin against Norbert Leitner. Leitner will probably be looked at for that incident just now, sending Kulhavi almost to the back, as Harrison's on the inside. Does it easily. Looks as though he has his sights firmly set on the top 5.
It will be chaos even more so in the background as a couple of other cars go side by side, but a focus needs to be at the top, because Gal Valero, his internet might be blinking, sure, but he's still firmly in that fight between himself and Marcelo Reales. Now, a word on Gal Valero. The last time we spoke to him at the end of that GT3 race that we had at Spa-Francorchamps, he wasn't best pleased. But now there must be a smile on his face, because he has executed one of the cleanest moves we have seen in this class all day long. Valero moves up to second, but here's the replay on that Kulhavi incident, and yeah, that was a bit close, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think because Leitner thought he had the inside line there, Kulhavi was defending. Although that angle may be a bit deceiving, because we probably needed a wide angle shot to see whether or not he had the line, or Kulhavi might have blocked a bit late. Whatever it is, that sent Kulhavi almost right to the back. He's in P11 right now, so at least he's not out of the woods in terms of battling just yet. But he'll be happy to know that he did not end up being terminal like what happened to Florian Lebigre. As Valero, though, remember that race in Monza when we had the rain? It wasn't his best of races, as he admitted, but kept it together to be in the top 10 both instances. Now, though, he has every opportunity to prove why he's fast in the TCR cars by at least taking victory here in the first heat. But he's got about 1.5 seconds to gain behind Pascucci.
Let's analyze the pace, let's analyze what's happening at the front, and consistently, Guy Valero has been faster than Roman Pascucci at the top. Now, a lot of it can be attributed to running in the draft as well, because of course with these TCR cars, with setups also being fixed, a great chunk of time can be won by being in the draft of another driver, which Valero was for quite a fair bit, as he chased all the other drivers and gained 6 positions, and Pascucci led from the front. But now will be the proper litmus test. Can Valero in clean air be faster than Pascucci and gain time? We will track that story, as we will also track this battle between Kieran Harrison and Alejandro Sanchez. Look at them in the background, nose to tail with each other. There's a battle for P4, and yes, it is going to be spicy. Harrison and Sanchez, that's iRacing royalty racing each other.
Wow, yeah, talk about a battle of the big hitters, isn't it? You really, well, if there was a paid seat in there, people would pay to see this battle going on. But we're seeing it on our screens for free right now, and it's good entertainment to see some of the best drivers duking it out. Harrison and Sanchez only separated by just 0.2 of a second here for P4, and you can see where Harrison is aiming for. He's trying to aim for the championship while getting ahead of his major rivals, especially the likes of Valero, who's second in the championship right now. He's safe, but again, never wait until it's over, because there's still mathematically plenty of points on offer for Valero to overhaul if something were to happen to Harrison. But at this point in time, 49.5, fastest lap of the race, he's got the bit between his teeth.
So Valero has answered that question about his pace with flying colours. That last lap time you mentioned, Amir, 1 minute 49.961, 2/10 faster than the leader, Roman Pascucci. So bit by bit, Valero is catching him, as you can see in the sectors. But there's not a lot to split all of them. That's the class of these drivers, all of them with ratings that are so similar. But interestingly, it is the caliber, and now a driver with legacy, a driver with history, a driver with proper name and value in the TCR class, that is Kieran Harrison, is teaching Alejandro Sanchez a lesson in passing drivers cleanly. But Sanchez says, hey, you might be the teacher, I might be the young student, but I will still fight hard and take you right to the very edge of your limit. Look at the blindness, look at the coldness in the drivers. They might be going wheel to wheel at the edge of their driving, but they will not flinch. These are ice-cold professionals, and within those two professionals, it is Kieran Harrison who currently has his nose ahead, but not by a lot. A send is coming in from Sanchez, who critically has the inside line of the stadium section, with Harrison opening up the door. Norbert Leitner could go for a peek as well, and that is some phenomenal passing. Alejandro Sanchez has taught the master himself a lesson. That move was one that needs to be documented and stored in the books, because that one was classy.
Yeah, but look at how long they went side by side for. I've seen in other sim racing races that I've been part of and commentated on, where you can go side by side for a long period of time through the Hockenheimring, especially the stadium section, and that one was no exception. How on earth that they did not collide will be talked about for quite a while after this, but it does come to the detriment of Harrison and Sanchez as well, because they lost so much time to realize. Look at that, 1.7 seconds now separating third and fourth. It's two different battle packs being formed right now, with Leitner also joining the fray here, licking his lips and thinking, yep, I might take the positions, but I'll just hang back for a while. As you can see there on the inside again, Harrison, can he make the move stick this time? You know, he tried it last time. It didn't work because Sanchez fought back. But this time, however, Harrison does make it stick. But can he seal the deal? Yes, he does. Now he can set his sights on P3.
And you can see that wry smile emerging on the face of Kieran Harrison. You can tell he is relishing this battle. He wants competition. He wants more drivers to match his level. He's been the championship leader, and Sanchez hasn't quite been as consistent in attending or scoring in this particular class. But given a citrus paribus condition, given equal setups, given equal track position, he is taking the fight to a far more experienced and a far older driver, which is commendable for Alejandro Sanchez. Great to see respectable racing everywhere, and I must say this, Marcelo Reales is nowhere close on the level of iRating as Valero. Reales has a 6,430 iRating, Valero has 9,768. Now, I know, and we all know, that iRating is not everything in this world. Experience in a particular car might matter more, and for all we know, Marcelo Reales might have done far more TCR laps than Valero. But just comparing the raw iRatings, comparing the raw pace, it is incredible to see Marcelo Reales keep up, and also at certain sectors go faster than the drivers ahead of him.
Yeah, but then again, as you also pointed out, iRating doesn't really mean the world in anything, because sometimes those drivers are actually in the process of building up their repertoire and iRating. And Reales may be no exception, because 6.4K, and you can see the green bar in the background, that's a B license, blue is A, and black is World Championship or professional level in the likes of Alejandro Sanchez. But again, Reales is proving that sometimes the form book can be thrown right out the window and completely burned, because look at that. He is still hanging on to the back of a blinking Valero. That might be a concern if a collision were to happen. Let's hope and knock on plenty wood that Valero still stays with us. But Reales, though, really proving a lot of people that, well, you can still mix it with the best, even with the numbers not proving so, as he tries to do one here coming through the Mercedes arena. No way through just yet. Valero holds firm. Pascucci does as well. This is going to be a grandstand finish here right now with 4 laps left to go.
Time has flown by in this front-wheel drive Heat 1 at the AMX 10 class with Roman Pascucci thriving underneath the chaos that's happening beneath him in the race order. He has been leading from the very, very beginning, and since Laurent Lebigre had that incident on the very first lap, Pascucci has grabbed the lead with both hands and is showing absolutely no sign of wanting to relent or even making the slightest of mistakes. Yes, his pace is not on the same level as the drivers behind him. Yes, he's clocking in lap times in the 1 minute 50s, whereas literally the three drivers behind him, Valero, Reales and Harrison, are all clocking in lap times in the 1 minute 49s. In fact, now Robert Leitner is also in the 1 minute 49s, but it does not matter because until they can find that extra time gap in that particular lap time to pass Pascucci, being faster is irrelevant. And even in this case now, I don't think the draft is working as well for Valero.
Yeah, I think because that, despite what you said earlier about the draft, TCR cars actually don't become like NASCARs where you can get sucked in almost immediately. These cars have almost like aerodynamic properties of a brake. It really does not have the best of slipstream brake capabilities. But having said that, if you're really close enough, you can do it like Valero. He was about 2/10, almost became a 10th, but because Pascucci just somehow managed to control the pace under braking there, ekes out a bit of an advantage. But Valero, no doubt, will be nipping back at his heels almost immediately. There's Pascucci's inset camera. We can see how he's working at the wheel, really driving with the knuckles right there, how he's gripping onto it, and then some, because Valero behind, no doubt, will be doing the same, as well as Reales behind him. With the three of them battling hard now, it brings Harrison, Sanchez, and Leitner into play here. So the fast three at the front will become a fast six.
Which will mean more action for all of us. When these drivers join the battle, when we see more people join the party, someone like Pascucci will have to be wondering, my word, these many good drivers right behind me? I know I'm good. Man, that is a pack to defend from, but he will have to back himself. And so far, what we've seen from him in this race will give enough of a database for him to believe in himself, because even though he has been pestered, there's no way to put it, he has been absolutely pestered by Valero behind him, he has shown no sign of relenting. Touch wood. And that is incredible. Thick skins, well, we've known that with the Argentinian teams in the past, be it in football, be it in hockey or any other sport as well. And now with their drivers, with Reales, with Pascucci, they are not cracking under any pressure whatsoever. Not even flinching. Sure, the mosquitoes might be biting them, but the expressions on the face are normal. Ice cold.
He's trying to actually channel his inner Fangio, isn't he? Because right now, this is all the pressure he's going to get into. Pascucci gets a bit of a tap from Valero there. Valero really tried his luck around the outside. They're going for the hairpin. On the inside, there's Reales. They're going to go 3 wide here. Out of the hairpin, coming out to the Mercedes section. Who's going to blink first here? Side by side between 3 different drivers. Reales got a good drive out of there, and he is in front. Only for the time being. Where is Valero going to stop? He's going to stop on the inside. Coming into the Mercedes arena. They go at it still side by side. And somehow, despite getting a terrible run, Valero takes the lead with 1.5 laps to go.
The Jenga brick has fallen down for Pascucci. It was oh so beautiful, surviving on the tenterhooks. But until one brick fell, until one pass came in, it all started to unravel, as it is with him right now, as he loses his rear end and controls it masterfully. Oh my goodness, this was such a beautiful drive from Pascucci. One move on the inside by Valero, which could also be done by some people, and the Dutch paper has been lit. It is a pit lane move. It is a penalty indeed. Pascucci is in the pit lane. There is chaos everywhere. Last lap of the race, and everything has unfolded in the most chaotic, in the most dramatic, and in the most ironic way possible for someone like Pascucci, who at the top was ice cold and brilliant. Valero came in aggressively, maybe a bit too aggressively for some people's liking, but he's got the lead, and how?
Yeah, but then again, that might have been from one of the corner cuts that actually sent Pascucci into the pit lane, but luckily, he's still in the top 10, and he'll be right up the front for heat number 2. No doubt he'll try to seek immediate vengeance for that one, but battle still on here. Sanchez and Leitner. Sanchez for the final position on the podium here to make it as Apex Racing 1-3 if he can keep it together here. So if you saw just now what happened to Reales, third place may be the most beneficial place on the entire grid because he can watch brief out of all this. But then again, he's under more severe pressure compared to the previous lap. Up in front of Valero and Harrison, half a second as we come into the third sector in the stadium section for the final time in this first heat here. Sawmill, this is not over, not by a long shot.
It is not at all. It is not at all. Kieran Harrison is only half a second away. If there is one minor mistake from Valero, which is very unlikely to be honest with you, it will still be an opportunity. But only the last few corners left now. White flag is up in the air. He got it somehow. He had to fight so aggressively for it. He had to dig deep, probably make moves that nobody else would dare do. But Kyle Valero has provisionally won Heat 1 of this AMX 10 race. And he had to fight for it. It's not the number of laps you lead, it's which lap you lead. And Kyle Valero critically led one big lap, the final lap. And he is your winner.
Well, final 2 laps, of course, because he actually made that move stick and never looked back. He had to actually work it hard just so he could actually keep it in front of Harrison. But half a second was the final tally, and he will take that any other day of the week to stay in front of Kieran Harrison, his main championship rival, and keep his slight faint hopes of overhauling the Brit alive. But nonetheless, we were treated to another banger of a race in the front wheel drive category, Sawmill, and can't wait for yet another one for one last time this season.
You're so right. A banger is the best way to describe that race. It was so calm until it wasn't. The Jenga brick just fell down on Roman Pascucci, who eventually finishes a sad and lowly P10, but at least he gets a good starting position for the next heat coming up. But Valero is the winner. Look at him. We remember how sad he was in the interviews last time out after having such a torrid race in the rain at Monza. But now he's a winner and he has everything to be happy about. Isn't that nice to see? But importantly, Kieran Harrison, Amir, was P15? Yeah, he was P14 at the start of this race. How on earth has he got that car in a second? I do not understand.
Again, that three-way battle at the front, he was the big beneficiary because the likes of Reales, the likes of Pascucci were battling it out. When Valero took the all into the front, he was there to pick out the pieces. Now, speaking of picking out the pieces, let's see if Lebigre can do it in heat number 2 here, Sawmill.
Off we go then, Heat 2 and the final race of the AMX 10 front-wheel drive class is underway, and already there is a pass. Attila Bushi, the 16-year-old Hungarian, has seized the lead from Florian Lebigre once again, and it is yet another torrid start for Lebigre. Will it be as bad as last time? Let's hope not, because already there's a driver on his inside line. That would have to be Tobias Soriano, who we know as being one of the most courageous drivers, and his courage is on display already. He's going side by side with Dino Filippa. Oh, don't we love Dino Filippa? Soriano's now on the inside line. He is sizing up a big move on the hairpin. It will take guts, it will take courage, but it's something he has no shortage of. In comes Filippa, sends one on the inside line of Florian Lebigre, and he takes it with both hands. But there's chaos in the background, and that would have to be Kieran Harrison in the mix.
Harrison and Fabi came together there. That was a big boy dive. Absolute big boy dive from Harrison. It did not pay off big time because he lost position for himself. And Fabi, they're still going at it side by side. Well, that's an Argentine and a Brit going at it hammer and tongs. We have seen that before, especially in football between England and Argentina. How many battles over the years there have been. Harrison this time around got the better of Fabi, and he's in front of Valero crucially as well. So at least that's one rival behind. But in front, Bushi has actually made do with the good start that he had. He's in front by 7/10 of Filippa. Soriano in third, Pascucci fourth. Oh, not make that Pascucci fifth because Lebigre goes on the inside, and this time he managed to survive lap 1, but he did not make do with what he had at the start. A good hand, but another bad getaway. And Dancer because he got pushed off there. Oh, he's not having the best of days, isn't he, Lebigre?
Yeah, Florian Lebigre is really being served around, unfortunately. That is so sad to see, because the driver of his caliber, driver as good as he is, rarely ever has a day as bad as him. But if you know that someone like Florian Lebigre can have a bad day, anyone can. Even the greats do not get it right sometime, and we're seeing something similar. But Harrison, after a bit of a messy start, needs to right his wrongs, and he's doing so with pace. Already up a couple of positions, he's passed Norbert Leitner, which is a hard car to get past, by the way. And with that, the important thing is, he now does not have to pass the likes of Reales, Fabio Bolero, and Leitner. If I was Kieran Harrison, even though I know that I'm the championship leader, I would be smiling ear to ear knowing that I wouldn't have to pass these guys. And now in the background, Valero, the winner of the last race, is already showing the aggression that got him the win the last time out. Going for a big dive, and Norbert Leitner needs to be on his toes, because if Valero is in the mood like he is right now, it's going to be hard to keep him waiting for too long. And that is what we're seeing. Door-to-door action as we head to the stadium section. And it is Norbert Leitner who temporarily has the advantage over Valero. But Amir, this won't stay like this too long, because Valero's nose is always on the inside.
Yeah, he's going to come through the stadium section here. I don't know if he can make it stay. He made it stay last time round when he actually overtook Reales. Can he do it now? There's a touch. There goes Leitner into the gravel trap, coming into turn number 9. And that will definitely, turn number 11, that will be looked into after this for sure. But wasn't the best of maneuvers. It got Valero the position, but at what cost? It might just come back to haunt him post-race. As further up in front, that's his immediate rival, Kieran Harrison, up to P10 behind Alejandro Sanchez. So Sanchez, teammate to Valero, might just play a bit of a key role here. He was a bit of a corking bottle last time out. He might try to do it this time, as across the line go the entire field. Bushi still in front, Lipa second, Soriano third, Pascucci fourth, Kulhavi fifth, a Hungarian leading a train of Argentines all the way to fifth. Lebigre, a Frenchman in between there. Dean's go through. Oh, that's a problem. Something happened there. To Pedro Dean into the barriers he goes. I think that might have been a hardware failure there. Sawmill, complete and utter failure of his wheel. And speaking of complete utter failure of something, I think Sawmill might have actually had his mic disconnected for a second. We'll wait for him to come back here. As up the inside goes Fabi inside of Lebigre. Lebigre's day has gone from bad to even worse here. He has not made good with this advantage he had at the start. He has been taken for position again. And then this is him doing himself and Gonzalo Fabi with Valero, his fellow countryman, up in front. But unfortunately, he wouldn't fight and cover that one, as Fabi nearly goes into the barriers there with a slight touch. Around the outside goes Harrison on the inside of Alejandro Sanchez. Sanchez will try to give him another good fight like he did in the previous heat, but to no avail this time for Harrison. He's still behind the really fast Spaniard, and the youngster keeps the old pro right behind again still, as we're still waiting for Sawmill to come back. Sawmill, are you still here?
Of course, it's hard to go anywhere when the racing is as good as it is right now. And this is a battle people should pay to watch. Kieran Harrison, the old pro, the championship leader, the man who is synonymous with being one of the best drivers in the history of the service in the TCR class, up against Alejandro Sanchez, the young 16-year-old up-and-coming driver who has the point to prove, not just to the world, but also to himself. Can he keep up with Kieran Harrison in his home turf, in his favorite car, in his territory, at a track he's done thousands of laps in? But what's happened here? Sanchez is stopping in the middle of the road.
Penalty.
That is not normal. That has to be a penalty.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
has. And the fact that just as you were waxing lyric about him, he goes and unfortunately cut one corner too many. Now he has to actually recover that up again. But that gives Harrison the license to grill up in front here with the likes of Saralagi, who we not have mentioned much actually. We normally see him right at the front, but Saralagi is up there as well in the top 6. Kulhavi, Pascucci, Soriano, Buxi, and Felipa, who goes on the inside, coming to the hairpin to take the lead of the race. But for how long? Because Bushi is not going to let that die, and that's another youngster who we know can do the business here. Coming out to the Mercedes arena, can he do it? Yes, he does. Retaliates almost immediately and blocks past Felipa.
They don't call it a heat for no reason. It is properly heating up here in the final race of the AMX 10 front-wheel drive class. And Bushi, who seized the lead at the very first corner of this race, now has it back in with his both hands firmly in control. He only might be 16. He might be such a youngster, such a rookie in terms of experience compared to all the others, but that doesn't mean that his raw pace is anything short of all the others. In fact, in terms of guts, in terms of instinct, in terms of pace, Bushi has been one of the classiest drivers in this second heat, and it will take quite something to stop him. But when you say quite something, it can literally translate into three names: Filippa, Soriano, Pascucci. Drivers who are quite something. Drivers who are some of the best we've seen in this entire class. Put them in TCRs, put them in GT cars, put them in Formula V's, for God's sake, they will still be quick. And Bushi, a real world driver who's actually put his car in pole position in the TCR Eastern Championship, now has a proper four-way pack behind him.
Yes, and the fact that all them are Argentine, so he'll have to watch out here if they start ganging up on him. But Bushi has actually held on well here by re-overtaking the lead from Filippa. But for how long can he keep up? Because look at this. This time he defends well coming to the hairpin. He knows what happened last time out. Filippa, though, has to go the long way around, and he's doing what Valero did previously by coming in as behind. There's a move there. Saralagi on the inside, Harrison on the outside, Kulhavi even more so on the outer extremity. Will give Valero the position. Lebigre will be there to pick up the pieces here. As we're going to have to go back to the point after this that I think Harrison might have clinched it, according to one of our fellow commentators, Kevin Garcia. So we'll wait and see then if this is confirmed towards the end. But up in front, you have an Argentine and then four Argentines, three Argentines and a Hungarian going hammer and tongs. A Brit, a Hungarian, a Brit and an Argentine with two Frenchmen behind there. So many nationalities to keep up. That's how cosmopolitan it is.
Run, Attila, run. Run for your life. Run as far away as you possibly can, because when Dino Filippa comes calling, he will make sure that he gets what he wants. He does that every single time he steps on a racetrack. We've seen him be so elbows out always. He can defend against drivers who are specialists in a particular car at a particular track, even though he might not be the specialist here. So the race against Bushi in his home turf of a TCR car, fucking lap times are just about as good as he is. Oh, Dino Filippa, he is one great driver. And look at this now. We're seeing more drivers join the pack. Kieran Harrison, in fact, is now close up to Saralegi. And he's also trying to run away from Kulhavi and Valero. What is happening in this race? It's all blowing up with 5 laps to go.
Saralegi actually is becoming a big pocket border right now. He has formed a different battle pack compared to the guys who are in the top 4 here. He's talking about maybe he's doing a bit of a favor to his fellow Argentine. But right now, Attila Bushi is trying to pull off his best Attila the Hun, in this case Attila the Hungarian, to be as savage as possible with his defending and overtake. He has done so with his attack, just block passes Filippa to regain the lead. Now he has to do a really good defense of the lead here, with Saralegi taking a leaf out of that particular book as well, fending off Harrison. So this will only serve to frustrate Harrison even more. There we go. There's the inset. Battle for P5. Side by side. Door handle to door handle. Harrison being pushed out completely wide. And then some. Can he make the mistake? Yes, he does at one point. But it's still going side by side. Saralegi really is making him working hard for this. But the Brit may have actually sealed the deal here. He's up in front. Or is he? Side by side they go, coming into the stadium section. Again, does he make it? Yes, he does.
But it still won't be over though. There is an inside line opening up for Saralegi right now, one that Harrison shuts down immediately. He knows that if given the opportunity, Saralegi will make him work even harder than he did to get past initially. Kieran Harrison is now free. He is away. He has clean air in front of him. And with 5 laps left to go, his next target is Roman Petrucci, who, by the way, folks, has consistently been lapping faster. This is scenario mode for Kieran Harrison. As it stands, he will be taking home the championship, but for him, the mission is clear. Close up the gap and see if you can join these guys. Bushi, Filippa, Soriano, Pascucci. It's going to be vengeance time for Pascucci, who so cruelly got that win taken away from him at the end of the first heat. Can he fight back? Can he use the draft? Can he do something as courageous as what Gal Valero did in the last race to grab that big win? Only 4 more laps left to go, and Bushi, as much as he will be looking at the apex ahead, will have to be looking at the mirror behind, because in this mirror are drivers full of class. And they're getting closer than ever.
Yeah,
it's time to bite your nails, ladies and gentlemen.
Class and pace. Yeah, class and pace, absolutely, because Bushi right now has been actually quite vigilant in his defending, because again, he learned from what happened previously with Felipe diving on the inside, coming into the hairpin. He's done that again. He moved off the racing line. He just put Felipe off and tried to dare him to go even narrower on the inside. And Felipe didn't take the bait that time around. He actually stayed his line. But for how long is Felipe going to play Mr. Nice Guy here? Because no doubt, with the Argentines behind here, they have every opportunity to gang up on the lone Hungarian up in front. But Bushi has been really solid in his defense. He dug his heels in and has not been faced by it. Almost there with a touch between the Hungarian and the Argentine. But Bushi still hangs on to the lead. But for how long here? We come up now into the final 4 laps of this race.
Nina Felipe desperately needs that fan behind him to be turned on, because everyone needs to calm down here. It's getting a little bit too hot, a little bit too spicy, and to the point that if something blows up, we might see this race be turned up on the top of its head. But look at the guy on the right. Look at Attila Bushi. He's literally not even of legal age. He can't drive this car and its road car version on the road, but he's beating drivers with 9,000 iRating. Man, this kid is quite something. Man, he's so patient. Man, he has some thick skin to be able to keep these people behind. But Felipe wants it bad now. You can see in his body language. Look at his eyes. Look at how he's squinting. Look at how focused he is. Look at how close he's getting. Felipe to the outside line. He will go. Tries to fake a dummy. Blocked off by Bushi very smartly. But this means that he's going door handle to door handle as they touch the apexes. And behind them, Roman Pascucci is also searching for an opportunity so desperately. Man, this guy wants it so badly. He's got to take it away from him in the last race, and you can see by the way he's driving that Pascucci is desperate to get one
Oh,
up.
he's not getting inside. That's Felipe. Felipe dives one. And so, Bushi kept the door open that time around. He probably did not expect Felipe to try one on the inside there, and somehow still manages to hold on to it. Soriano tries to follow suit, Pascucci as well. But with Holden batting up in front, that's Harrison, 9/10 of a second behind. He is now going to make it a fast 5 up in front. There we go, a wake-up call that Bushi needed to get up. And Felipe tries one again, coming through Sachs curve. Does he make it? No! He has been pushed to the limit. Here is Bushi to keep the lead up and then some. Tomil, I have no idea how this is going to go.
Only 3 more laps left to go for this race to end. Lap 9, 10 and 11. 3 to go, but action in abundance. Attila Bushi leads this race by only a couple of tenths of a second, and it's not a leading pair, it's a leading pack. Kieran Harrison, ladies and gentlemen, has also joined this mix. And to make things into context for all of you, Harrison has gained 8 positions, but now it's time for Felipe to gain a position. He's put the foot in the door. He now wants it. He's waited for too long. It's been 9 laps of watching, anticipating, and just guessing and making sure that Bushi is on the top of his heels. But now, it is action time for Felipe. It is time to make things work. He's going bumper to bumper. On the outside he goes. Harrison has touched the back of Pascucci, who's going wide and takes him all off. It's...
wow. And that was Harrison snooker bowling Felipe and Pascucci into each other. There we go, Felipe out of retaliation, and he's angry with that one. He has taken out a very, very unfortunate Florian Lebigre. There we go, that's the end of his run. Really then, Lebigre has a day to just completely forget. But, wow, Harrison involved with 2 major collisions in the same race. Might just be looked into after this. It may be the title for him, but it might be just controversial circumstances. He's up to second. Amazingly got in front of Soriano between out of all of that. But Bushi can breathe a sigh of relief for now. He's managed to gain almost a second out of all of this.
And what does Florian Lebigre have to do to have a good day? Seriously, the guy has been through everything and more today. Florian Lebigre has to be in pain at the end of it all. Yep, Florido 7 has been booted out, unfortunately. It's been a sad, sad day for him, even though he showcased incredible plays. Realis is back down, Lightner is back down. Ferrari Pascucci, it feels almost wrong to see drivers of that caliber towards the bottom half of that field. But it also feels equally crazy to see Kieran Harrison, who started P13 in second. Yes, he's the TCR master. Yes, he's the expert. Yes, he's a championship leader. Yes, he has a chip on his back. But to climb that many positions in a fixed setup race, oh, it takes quite some doing. Kieran Harrison for Team SimRC will now be taking the fight to Attila Bushi. 2 laps left to go, and the action is not done yet.
Yeah, and the fact that last time I remember he had to battle with Valero, nearly got it there. Only half a second separated him with a win in that first heat. There we go. There's the instant Pascucci and Filippa. But it all started because look at that. It almost looked like a snooker move there by Harrison, where he hit the back Pascucci, which in turn hit the back of Filippa, and then Filippa just completely gone absolutely mental because you know full well that he had the win there, but because his fellow countryman got knocked out by the Brit, he decided to go full nuclear and just hit. Look at that. He hit the side of Lebigre and almost hit the back of Sanchez as well for good measure. I mean, I wouldn't blame him. It wasn't his fault the first time, but that second time was completely on him because he literally was just having nothing left to lose afterwards. Well, the stewards may look into that after this, and so is Harrison as well. Remember, Harrison is not completely clear of the woods in that regard as well because he was involved in a major accident at the start of the race too. So, nothing is for certain yet, but what is certain right now, the final lap of the entire AMX 10 front-wheel drive season comes to this between 4 different drivers who have a lot on the line.
Watch the camera on the right. Watch the 16-year-old Attila Bushi. In real life, he has been a prowess. He has been a prodigy, doing incredible stuff at this young of an age. But even he is having to breathe a sigh of fear. Because when he saw Kieran Harrison at the back of his rearview mirror, when he crossed that white flag, he took a deep breath and said, "Oh man, I've got to work hard for this one now." And he will have to. So then, white flag in the air, Harrison versus Bushi. 2 more sectors to go. Who's your money on, Amir?
Oh, I'm not going to bet on this one because this is really too close to call. Bushi now does the very same thing that he did Filippa for throughout the entire heat by blocking the inside line, forcing Harrison to go as narrow as he could. And this time, however, Harrison goes back to the race line quickly so that he could be on the same line as Bushi. As we saw just now, somebody commenting till EV, I think he said Lebigre 07. That's actually a salute to just say goodbye to him as Harrison goes to the inside, coming through the Mercedes arena. Does he make it sting? Yes, he does. Bushi has had his defense completely wide open this time, but you might know for a fact that Harrison's race might be looked into after this, as Bushi goes very narrow to block out Soriano. Harrison will take the win here, but at what cost? We might have to look into it in post-race after this with the amount of accidents that he was involved in heat number 2. Soriano then tries to look through on the inside. Bushi can't make it through. Valero is also watching brief, and he has been blinking out of reality throughout the entire round. Somehow still managed to keep it in here as Soriano tries one last ditch effort with a sink in it. Doesn't make it stick, but Harrison then is going to come through as the champion here, Somil.
Battered and bruised he may be, but Kieran Harrison can finally put a smile on his face. He is the champion of the AMX 10 front-wheel drive class. They don't call it totally chaotic racing cars for no reason. And to capture the victory in this class takes a driver who can survive the chaos and be calm amidst all the pandemonium, and one guy who's done it better than everyone else over the entire season has been one Kieran Harrison. Bow down, everyone, the champion is here. What a crazy race we saw. Provisionally, Kieran Harrison wins on track. There might be a few penalties coming in here or there after so many battles, especially for Kieran Harrison. But regardless of whether he wins this or not, it will still be a championship win for Kieran Harrison in the AMX 10 front-wheel drive class. But let's also not forget the incredible race that Attila Bushi has put in. Sure, Kieran Harrison might have climbed back down from P13 up to P1, but Attila Bushi, a young 16-year-old with not the same level of iRating as any of the drivers around him, far lower, has gone in and has won against drivers who are incredible at what they do. Take a note, Attila Bushi, ladies and gentlemen, is one for the future.
Indeed, and not only in sim racing but IRL as well. This kid is definitely a future star in the making. Wow, I'm almost out of breath here, Sawmill. It has been an amazing pair of races in both classes, in AMX 1 and AMX 10. But again, the TCR class, the front wheel drive category, takes the cake every single time, and this is no exception. This might be the best one yet, even better than the one in Jerez.
Yeah, totally chaotic racing. That's what TCR cars are always about. And in all of it, right, we saw so many drivers get a little bit antsy, so many drivers push a little bit beyond their means, going for moves that they didn't really have to. But I'm so particularly impressed by Attila Bushi. Got this move cleanly heading into turn 1, then got it back again later on when we saw more challenges coming around. And to think that a 16-year-old was the calmest among the entire field is mind-blowing. How?
Oh, I think he might have developed it throughout his entire childhood, that he could actually soak up so much pressure more than a sponge and just repel any attack that's come his way. Yes, his resistance was broken because of Harrison, but then again, he will not be hanging his head low. He'll be hanging his head very high, knowing that he held on for that long, and potentially he might still get that win post race, of course. Because again, so much to look into, so many incidents. But think about Attila Bushi. If we had the Driver of the Day award, he would have gotten it clearly.
But we also need to talk about our champion, Kieran Harrison. It's no joke. Fixed setup cars, P13 up to P1, on paper at least, even though we had a little bit of a messy move. But even in the first race, he put up quite a recovery drive, and he walks home not only with the front wheel drive championship, but also the biggest prize pool of the biggest prize money, in fact, gained from the entire race today. That is amazing. And it's not that the drivers he was racing with are slouches. There are drivers with 7,000, 8,000, 9,000 I rating that he's beaten. And he's known as the master of this class for a reason, right?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, if we saw Harrison having an off day in touring cars, it either has to be an accident that he was taken out of, or generally he had a problem with pace. But again, those kind of off days are very rare for him, and that's why he's fast. And in fact, we might just get a couple of words from the main protagonist from that Heat 2 battle after this, as Sawmill, you can take it away.
Yes, indeed. Kieran Harrison, ladies and gentlemen, is joining us right here. Kieran, can you hear me firstly?
Yeah, got you.
Audio check. Am I audible?
Yeah, I got you. Can you hear me?
Don't think I can hear you.
I don't know why.
Ah, there you are. There you are.
You got it. Okay.
Kieran, firstly, congratulations on sealing the front wheel drive championship. What are the emotions going on in your head right now? I mean, it must be so many thoughts, right, after a race that totally deserved the totally chaotic racing moniker.
Yeah, I mean, I'm obviously really pleased with the title, as you just said, and I've had quite a good day today. Just been looking back through the replay because I was obviously involved in a few incidents there. So perhaps a couple of apologies from me are owed to some of the guys, but it was honestly just such fine margins in this kind of tight racing. It's going to happen at some point.
But Kieran, I particularly want to know more about the younger drivers. Did you like the way someone like Bushi was racing? Because for us watching on the outside, the composure he showed as a 16-year-old was quite something.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really... I raced him on the last lap, and I saw he was having a big fight for the lead earlier when I was catching up to the train. And I was quite impressed he managed to stay in the lead for so long under so much pressure. Obviously, then there was the incident behind, so he got a little bit of a gap for a while. And I was quite surprised, to be honest, when I ended up getting through on the last lap. I thought he was going to hold it around the outside there, but just about managed to clear him. But yeah, he did a great job for sure.
But Kieran, one last question for you. Your sim rig says open wheeler, but you clearly have such a mastery over front wheel drive cars. Why is that? What do you do specifically that makes you so good?
I mean, that's a good question. I don't know. I wish I was as confident in some of the other cars as I am in a front-wheel drive car. But I guess it just comes down to experience. I've done a lot of driving in these cars and just got to know sort of the gimmicks almost of how to drive the front-wheel drive cars, because there's not that many of them on the service. So I guess a lot of the guys with rear-wheel drive backgrounds are more used to how to drive them, and there's certain things you got to do in a front-wheel drive car. But yeah, I don't know specifically. I'm just going to put it down to experience. I've driven these a lot.
No, but it's great to see you win the championship at the end, and great stuff all season long. Congratulations, Kieran.
Thank you.
Got a little bit messy out there, and good to see Kieran Harrison also saying that he has to apologize to a few drivers. But throughout the season, I'd love to get your wrap up on this, Amir. We have had so much madness in this front wheel drive class. How would you sum it up at the end of it all?
Well, I think the best way to describe it is that chaos breeds more chaos, and it just happens to be that some of the drivers who are most zen among that chaos will be the one that prevail. And the likes of Harrison, Valero, and all the other dem boys who have won races throughout this entire season, it's just them managing to make sense of it all. So that's why it has been proven that those guys who know how to make use of the car itself, how to drive it, and based on what Harrison said as well, experience, that's what comes out trumps, and that's why we see the best come out to the top, even with some of the most frenetic races throughout the entire season. I think this is the most frenetic class we've ever had so far in AMX.
Yep, but it's not the end of it all. Ladies and gentlemen, this Saturday and Sunday, there are more races that will be happening right here on this very platform, starting from 5:50 p.m. GMT. So join in, and if you want to go racing here on this iRacing platform, you can do that too. Just visit the amxrace.com website to sign up. But it's been an incredible season in the front-wheel drive category, and we will conclude it right here with the end of this broadcast. On behalf of Amir and the entire production crew, my name is Samuel Arora, and thank you for watching. Bye-bye.